All right. Well, folks, thank you for joining us again tonight. And if you all would please make your way onto the TR3B and find your seats. Store your goods and your gear in either the overhead racks or the put it securely in the seat below the seat. And make sure your seat backs and your cables are in the upright position. And buckle your seatbelts. Are you ready? I hope so. We're on the way to 40,000 light years. 3, 2, 1. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have arrived at 40,000 light years. You are welcome to go ahead and unbuckle your seat belts and move about the cabin. Make sure you're able to see any of the strategically placed monitors around the cabin so that you can keep up with the show. So here we go. Well, good evening, Indigo. How are you tonight?
Hey, I'm okay. You know, I was just thinking really happily about the fact this ship doesn't require that you wear a mask when we go on a trip. It's like, you know, the environment is all quite normalized for us. So we don't have to wear a helmet or a mask or anything like that. Kind of like that about these trips.
Yeah, you know, well, we make special care to, you know, look at things realistically.
Yeah.
You know, when you're out in space, you have to look at things realistically, right?
Yeah, definitely a different environment. Well, how are you tonight?
I am doing fine. Thank you very much, sir. And well, you know, we have a guest with us tonight. I don't know if you have met our guest before, but just to let everybody know, our guest is none other than Mr. Gene. He has been on Hyperdrive before several times, and we haven't. I haven't talked with Gene for a while. I've received a lot of his updates and stuff via email and stuff, and watched a lot of his work. And I thought it'd be fun to have Gene back on Hyperdrive. And so I contacted him about an hour and a half ago, and I really want to say thank you to Gene for being willing to come on tonight. And so, welcome back to the show, Gene. How are you?
Thank you, Randall. It's Thumper. I think it's been like a year.
It probably has. Yeah, it's been a
long
while.
Time. A lot of water under the bridge, and a lot of star systems past the ship since then.
Oh yeah. We've made quite a few journeys. We haven't missed a journey yet.
Yeah,
and lots of things to discuss and look into and stuff like that. And I know you've been quite busy. I
never thought I'd get this busy. I thought I was retired.
Yeah. Well, since the last time we talked, I have retired. I sold my insurance agency last summer.
Wow.
And
congratulations.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it worked out extremely well. And it's given me a lot more time to concentrate on what we're doing here at Patriot Soapbox. And the shows that I've got, and helping out the platform and all that. It's keeping me busy, that's for sure.
So are you on? I saw you were suffered in the purge. Are you on YouTube now, or what are you on?
We're on DLive and Vaughn, and I think we just signed up on another one today. I can't even remember the name of it.
Rumble, BitChute.
No, it was
YouTube.
Well, where is it here?
A good one is YouTube. Utah Gun Exchange. A lot of people are on that one.
Oh, okay.
You might want to look into going there, because that's owned by a Patriot, and it's pretty massive now.
Okay.
A lot of the Patriots went there since the big purge of YouTube.
Well, I know that we're looking for a lot of different platforms, and there's a new one out that I guess Pam just hooked us up with today. I can't remember the name of it.
I know 107 is going to start a tube that'll be just something that'll be just like YouTube, with the live chat and everything, and you monetize it, and you have the super chat and all that stuff.
Well, that'd be really cool. Trovo, I guess, is the name of this new one.
Haven't heard that one.
And there's a way. I know nothing about it, Gene.
Okay.
I absolutely don't know anything about it. However, like I said, I just got the word on it this afternoon, and I've been busy trying to figure out what we were going to do for a show tonight. And I had been giving some thought to getting in touch with you, and I decided, well, tonight would be the night. And I'm just so happy that you were able to
thanks for
oblige us and come on tonight.
Yeah, appreciate you inviting me. Thank you.
You bet.
And Gene, it's great to meet you. I've listened to you many times here on Patriot Soapbox. This is awesome. Really looking forward to visiting.
Thank you. Back in the day, I was just Coast Say Gene, but the world decided that's not my name. They said, your name's Gene Decode. Okay. Yeah, I got tired of correcting it. It's like when I was with the name, I got tired of correcting my name. That's not what your birth certificate says. Well, that's my name. No, it's not anymore. Okay.
Yeah, I noticed that you were going by Gene Decode now, or at least that's how you've become to be known.
Yeah, after about 30 platforms, I gave up trying to correct people. I was like, okay, that's what it is.
Oh, well, that's how things work out here, isn't it? Like you say, in the Navy and the military, if you get a nickname, you might as well just give up, because they tend to stick.
Yeah, they stick like glue, and you never get rid of it.
Yeah, really. So, there's just been so much that's gone on in the past year, but so much is happening right now, and it's hard to tell the truth from the lies and the misinformation and stuff like that. And by the way, didn't really get a chance, and I apologize to Indigo and to you, to introduce you to Indigo. He's been helping me out on the show here when he has the time. He also helps out TMC. You remember TMC?
Yeah. How's TMC doing?
He's doing great.
Yeah. Thank you for helping Thumper, Indigo.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, he's good people. Those are hard to come by in these times.
Thank you for that, Gene. And likewise, you are as well. And Indigo has just been fantastic. He's just a wonderful soul. And I super enjoy when he can, he has to work during the day, and he's on all the way on the East Coast. So for Indigo to be here, he puts an extra effort being up this time in the day for him, or night, whatever the case may be, to just be here. And I can't thank him enough for that. So
that's like 2 a.m. there, Indigo, right?
Yep. This will be a 2 to 5 a.m. show. And you know what, Gene, if I plan on it and structure the week around it, then I can get in one good slot on Wednesdays with Thumper. And I really do look forward to it. He is a great showmeister and a great conversationalist, well-read, as well as when I do the show with TMC on Saturday nights. He is just so awesome to work with. He is so dedicated and well-read, and he's always doing research. We're always digging up more stuff, and it's relevant to today. It's pertinent stuff, you know?
Yeah. Tell TMC I said hello, and I don't know if he's looked into it, but look into the nanotech that they have in the COVID vaccine from Pfizer, as well as from the testing. All the testing swabs and everything have nanotech.
Yeah, we've grazed against that, and that is on our radar. Yep, for sure. Yep, we'll say hi to him.
So, Gene, with everything going on, I have a lot of questions about some of the things that we're seeing and hearing, and I would love to get your take on it. And I just kind of outline a couple of things, and then you can take the ball and run with it, and kind of give us an update. As far as things that have been going on, all the way from the inauguration, and the what are you getting as far as your intel? Because I've got everything. I've seen everything from. There's a lot of people that have already been. They've gone and they've had their tribunals, and some of them are no longer with us. Some of them are in jail. I've heard things like Gitmo is completely full, and they're starting to look for alternative places to house some of these people who will not be executed or have not been executed yet. But and then the continuation and the clean out of the DUMBs. That's another one. The problem that I have is the lack of solid intel on this. It seems like there's a lot of guessing going on, but nobody really knows for sure about any of this stuff. And so you kind of have to look at this stuff and you say, well, that's what we hope is happening. We'd love to see all this happening. It needs to happen. But like I said, the disinformation is thick out there. And so can you help us sort through it?
Yeah, so first, a good way to look at what's going on here, because here is pivotal to the entire Earth.
Mm-hmm.
But they're also doing similar things all over the world, the Alliance, simultaneously.
Yeah, that's what we understand, yeah.
So if you look, a good example would be Myanmar, in which a country of 60 million had 8 million votes with the same apparatus we had installed here, Dominion, Skydal, et cetera, that were flipped. And so in that situation, rather than doing it undercover, like here, through it's been stated that Trump has signed the Insurrection Act, and that incited 11.3 Act, which turns over the National Guard to him. It installs continuity of government. It puts in DEFCON 2. It does a lot of things. And, you know, from my intel being here in Colorado, Cheyenne Mountain's been in lockdown since last March. But all of that, like you said, and then, you know, the stuff that the inauguration, you could see the splicing. That was kind of obvious. I mean, the girl in pink and white are appearing and disappearing. White wall with a black trim down the middle appeared and disappeared. And that's very symbolic. The pink, if you remember back in Wuhan, during when they had COVID first going crazy, they were dragging people out of cars that were wearing pink and beating them to death. That is because in China, the Christians wear pink. So the pink and white disappearing is saying that the cabal, of course, from my understanding, we're watching a movie. It's pretty much a done deal, but you're watching a symbolization and master speaking, all kinds of codes. So that blue and white would symbolize the Christians and then purity and truth being eradicated by this cabal. If they're truly in charge, that is the question. So if we look at Myanmar, however, they are military, and I realize, you know, the country is what it is, and the military is what it is, and it's been a burden on the backs of the people, but now it is taking out the cabal. It has taken over the country. It has ousted the bankers, the World Bank, from that country. It is, dumbs are coming down in that country. There were dumbs that were taken out in Myanmar, which is actually fairly easy to find. Dumbs being taken out is actually fairly easy if you know what you're doing. So all you have to do is go to the USGS site and you look for earthquakes and raspberry shake. You use them combined. So raspberry shake, you're going to look at the waveform for that location, for that earthquake. So what you're looking for is an earthquake without both P waves and S waves. You only have the secondary wave. You don't have the deep preliminary wave, which means that's a blast going off. And so then you're looking on the USGS site. First, what you're looking for is earthquakes at 3, 5, and 10 kilometers, because when they create these, the technologies they use primarily in the last 20 years is very efficient. So what they do is they have one of these big, huge boring machines that's boring. It can bore up to 60, 70 miles a day, and they have this running for a couple months. So it's heading towards where they want to make the dome. And they make these on very powerful ley lines for specific reasons. So that's, again, if you know the ley line layouts, you can overlay that on where the earthquakes and the lack of the P wave, and so you have a double confirmation there. And then what they do, while that boring machine is making its way to where they want the dome to be, just before it gets there, they have a device that's about it depends on the size of the dome they want to make and the depth. Its diameter is either 1 meter or 2 meters in diameter. On the front end of it, it has a particle beam. On the lower half of it, and that bores as it falls. And on the lower back end of it is a neutron bomb with a timer. So they know the rate at which it bores and it falls. It doesn't care. Particle beam doesn't care what it's boring through. It bores at a steady rate. So it's time to go off at a certain time frame. So those time frames equate to 3, 5, and 10 kilometer depths. So then once the device detonates, now you have a big, huge cavern. All you have to do then is pipe in down the hole and bore liquid nitrogen. That cools the cavern right away within minutes. Then shortly after that, the boring device has been timed so that it penetrates into that cavern. Now you have a way to circulate air. So within 48 hours, you have an area that crews can come in, engineers and things can come in, like Phil Schneider used to be part of that. He'd come in and build the infrastructure inside these vast caverns. And within 2 months, you have these massive domes. So in Myanmar, they've actually taken down quite a few domes. So on the border, right next in the Shan province area, which Myanmar, for those that don't know, is 80% of the world's opium and heroin supply.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's the Golden Triangle. So Myanmar is bordered on the northeast by China, and then on the southeast by Thailand and Laos. and then on the other side by India and Bangladesh. So it's a perfect place to, to grow the opium. And then the Shan district is very mountainous, and the government, the cabal government that they had was taxing the people so heavily. The only way they can survive is to grow the opium poppies. And then they would ship it through the dumb tunnel systems, the maglev systems, from those areas for after they got them out of the mountainous region on trucks, and mules and whatever they did. So the primary dumps that they're taking out going up were coming from the dumps in the Shan district and going right into Mingxi and right into Chiang Mai and in Thailand. You can look, if you go to the USGS site and look at a 1-month profile, you can see those. And then right into the area of upper India near the border where it goes towards Assam, if you know where that is. So they're cleaning out there. And then you can also see worldwide that there's many, like in Italy, a lot of their bankers have been arrested and their government has stepped down. In many countries, that's the case. We also have heads of major corporations, even ones that own them, stepping down from their own corporation. So there's a lot of signs that things are happening if you're paying attention. You're also seeing pedophile busts still, which doesn't fit if this is Biden, because we know how he is with little girls. If you go and look at the open mics and all the stuff where he's fondling and smelling hair and all this other stuff, it doesn't fit. The last thing that really doesn't fit is that there you go. So you can see how it's perfectly situated, and then the mountainous area where it borders China, upper parts of India, Laos, and Thailand all fit perfectly for growing the opium. So if you go to the USGS site, then you can see how that perfectly fits. And then in the last thing that really doesn't fit, other than the inauguration, Air Force One, the White House, there's a lot of things that don't fit.
There's
face,
all kinds of things that don't fit.
The structure of his face, the mask that you can see sometimes gapping at the chin. There's a lot of things, and I can share screen and show you a bunch of that if you want. But the big thing that doesn't fit at all, because we know how the cabal treated General Flynn, is that they would put General Flynn's brother and advance him in rank and put him in charge of the entire Pacific Basin. I was like, it's not cabal. They want to put him in jail or kill him. They're not going to put him in charge of the military for the entire Pacific Basin. So, and then I have seen, and, if you watch Monkey Works, you can see the flights, but you can also, prior to that, Trump, stepping, he stepped down, or retired, he said, from the presidency. He didn't step down. He stepped down from the presidency. You retire as the CEO of a corporation. So you got to watch the wording. And so if you go to the Organic Act of 1871, you would understand the difference in the U.S. Inc. compared to the U.S. Republic.
Yeah, we've several of my
through that already.
Well, that's been a deep dive topic for me for well over 10 years. And we've done a couple of shows on that where we've dove deep into that.
Yeah. Did you go into the War of 1812 and the switch of the brew on the Constitution?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So they switched out the Constitution, all that stuff. So, there obviously is something going on that doesn't fit at all. If you look at Biden, and you look at the one thing I did see, I have 2 videos, and one was shown, not the one I actually saw. I've seen 2 now. When I did Linda Paris this week on Linda Paris' show, McAllister TV, she showed a clip. We had 10 days in which the White House was dark, and early in the morning on the last day. So there's the USGS site, as you can see. One thing that's interesting also, for example, you see Ashford, Washington, minus 0.6, I believe. That's a minus, right?
Yeah, hang on a second here.
Looking.
Let me
2.5 east-northeast of Ashford, Washington. So click your button on go look at your side profile. And you can click that and it'll bring you up. There you go. So that's a minus value, I think. No, that's a near surface value. Sorry. You will see minus values as well. A minus value is indicating unless there's a quarry, a volcano, or geysers in the area, the only way you can get them, that's the regular ways you're going to get, or they're doing demolitions on a building or something. You're not going to get it. That means that you're having the air shaking above the ground.
Mm-hmm.
So if you scroll down, you can find minus values, and that's where they're taking out underground facilities, the Alliance, and there's ships in stealth that are trying to get out. And the Alliance has all of the satellites, if you remember from the 8th prime board, if you know what I mean, the 8th prime number, because I don't want to get you like Quebec artichoke, put it that way, 16 plus 1. So he had shown how the corona and all of that, they took those satellites out. So they can now take stealth ships trying to get off Earth. And if you see a negative value, you can page down and you can see negative value, but you can see all the 10s, especially in Greece right now. There's an ongoing dump takeout in Greece. So there's a lot of Earth situation quakes where if you go to, and compare it to see if and you can get it through here. You got to know how to click and follow the clicks, but you can get and see the P wave, S wave structure on USGS too.
Mm-hmm.
But, to have that many earthquakes all at 10 kilometers, and they can, the idea that they don't know, they said, well, that's just what they do when they don't know. No, they can tell you to the inch exactly if, in the USGS, bureau, they actually can tell you to the inch how deep an earthquake is.
Well,
so what you want to do.
And that's the one thing that has been one of my key factors is looking at these things and looking at the depth that these earthquakes are happening at. They're always at a very consistent 8 kilometers, 10 kilometers, right in
3,
that.
5, and 10 are the big ones. So click on your right side, 7 days, all magnitude US. There you go. Now click on that stack of papers just up to the left of the earthquakes and go to terrain so you can see your terrain better.
Ah, there we go.
And now you can close those 2 windows. Close by hitting close, and then close by hitting the gear. You can close your up on top. There you go. Now you can see full scale.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, beautiful.
Now, all of these are right on, right at Mount Rainier, which is always.
So the next thing would be to see if there is actually geologic activity at Mount Rainier right now.
Mm-hmm. There's typically there's always rumblings at Mount Rainier. That's fairly
so that could be very natural.
Pretty much a given.
Go over to Greece right now. Also Turkey and Armenia.
I've heard there's been a lot of activity in Armenia.
Yeah, they're taking out a dam in Armenia now. You can see it right there. If you click on that, it's going to be 10 kilometers.
We have Turkey there. There we have 10 kilometers depth. And it's a 4.6.
Yeah, fairly
magnitude.
deep magnitude, but exactly 10. And if you go to the right one, that's, I believe, is Armenia.
Yeah. Yep. And again, 10 kilometers.
Yep.
And a 4.9.
Yep. And then in Greece, if you go to Greece, those are 10 kilometers too.
Yeah, 4.8 magnitude, 10 kilometers. Yep. I mean, it just, 10 kilometers, 4.4, 12.8 kilometers.
Go to the one on the border of Russia and Mongolia. That's a dome. It's in Turk. Way up. Not that one.
Oh, okay. There we go. Yeah. Yeah, 4.9, Turk, Mongolia, 10 kilometers.
Yeah. So
I
kind of
mean,
obvious.
just what? I mean,
What are the
seriously,
chances?
it makes absolutely no sense at all that all of these things are at 10 kilometers.
Right.
Not only that, but they build the maglevs on the rifts, on the continental rifts, and they have a train that goes one way on one edge of the continental shelf, and on the plate, and on the opposing plate that's separated by the volcanic activity at 10 kilometers down, they have the other going the other direction. So if you go to the Arabian Sea, I'll bet you that earthquake you see is at 10 kilometers in the Arabian Sea.
I got a question for you here. This one over here, I just clicked here.
Yeah.
In
Where's that?
Zhongshan, China, at 26.9 kilometers. That's a 4.5. Now, there have been some that are extensively deep. You know, much more than like I said, twice as deep as
Under the
other ones.
under the Himalayas, you can have some deep ones.
Mm-hmm.
Because the Himalayas have vast rise, so they need to be under the Himalayas.
Mm-hmm. Now, when they publish the depth there, is that below sea level or is that below surface level?
That's below surface level.
Okay, so if you're
from
talking,
my understanding.
okay.
So click on that one right on the Arabian Sea there. You'll probably find it's 10 kilometers. That would be the southbound train.
Mm-hmm.
Northbound's on the other side.
Okay, so yeah, we've got 4.4 at 10 kilometers again.
Yeah.
I mean, what are the odds? The odds are just not there. 10 kilometers.
Congo is also likely to be 10 kilometers because there is a dome located near there.
Mm-hmm. Yep, 10 kilometers.
Yeah,
4.7.
Just saying, what a coincidence.
Now I understand
a lot of 10-kilometer earthquakes in the world, isn't there?
Yeah, well, I understand that United States Geological Service is the only one that is actually publishing these unique earthquakes. Is that correct?
There are other sites in Australia. The USGS has been mandated, and in Iceland and England right now, in the UK, they're mandated not to post anything. So if you look at UK, there's nothing. Even if you go 30 days back, there's nothing, because there's ongoing ops that are clandestine in Australia and the UK. Mm-hmm. So you're not going to see anything. The one, let's see, you'll see some in the New Guinea area that will be. Some are natural, because you do have volcanic activity. Same in New Zealand. Periodically, you'll see 10 kilometers, but it is a hotbed for volcanic activity too.
Mm-hmm. Now you see a lot of them. There's been a lot of action along the Ring of Fire.
That actually is the child trafficking trip to go to, for the royals to go down to New Zealand, Antarctica. The tunnel system goes from all the way up from Yakutsk, goes down, and that peninsula coming off of Russia runs down through Japan, Taiwan, Philippines, New Guinea, down into New Zealand, and down into Antarctica. So like if you go to the Philippines, some of those earthquakes are going to be at 10. I think the one below the word Manila, or in the tip of the southern Philippines, will probably be at 10 too, because they're taking out in the Philippines some of the dumps there where they traffic kids. They also grab them there because it's a third world country and people have big families, and they're not enough to do any, have enough income to do anything about it.
Mm-hmm.
So that Vanuatu region is a trafficking hub too. The one you click there, Vanuatu. But I think that one near Davao, that is one that's been ongoing for 2 years now. They've been working on that for 2 years. That was 10 kilometers last year. They're getting deep under that now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this one says 21 kilometers.
Yeah, it started 2 years ago at Tagaytay and Davao. It was at 10 kilometers in, but that is so massive it goes deep. So that's now they're working their way deep. But now, if you go up below Manila, I think that one is 10.
Now the deeper ones. Now, are these connected to some ancient domes that were built by who?
By non-terrestrials.
By non-terrestrials. Okay.
So like if you go, when they cleaned out in California, what is it? Mount Shasta.
Right.
The Alliance cleaned that out, but some of the earthquakes going into Mount Shasta were 800 kilometers deep. And that's going, the Agarthans are working their way up from inner Earth doing that. They're helping the Alliance from the inside of the Earth now, cleaning out the stuff. They've joined the Alliance to, you know, because now we're a spacefaring people, they're allowed to, and we're going in beyond a type 3 civilization, and we're getting free energy, they're allowed to help.
Mm-hmm. So you've got this one here in McLeod, California, 3.3 kilometers, right around Redding here, 13.5 kilometers there, 15 kilometers there, 6 kilometers, 3.6 kilometers.
If you know the Ridgecrest system, they've been working on that. That goes up into Tahoe. And that goes from 29 Palms down to China Lake and goes up through Tahoe. So that area is a lot of dump takeout in there too, where your cursor was. And then that's that whole line of earthquakes, that's the Ridgecrest tunnel system.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that all started at you know, and I've spoken to people about this, and that is the, you know, this was all of this was taken in earnest on July 4th. What was it, 2018, I believe, when they had the 4th of July celebration in DC, and you know, President Trump had all the military equipment in DC and stuff. You know, he was talking about a military parade and everything. And at the same time, all of a sudden, this stuff started happening. And the first real obvious one was China Lake when they took it out.
Yeah, that was massive. That was a spark gap grid. There was thousands of kids down there.
Mm-hmm.
And that was pretty obvious. And then during that time, you had Porter Ranch, where you had the fires coming out from the storm grates.
Yeah, El Rancho, I think is it El Rancho or something like that?
Yeah, El Rancho and Porter Ranch.
Yeah.
And then in the UK, at the end of the last year, you saw the same thing going on in the UK. Mm-hmm. And also in some places in Melbourne and in Australia, the same thing. And people, you know, the people that tried to say I'm full of it were saying, you know, we've seen, you know, quite often sewer systems catch on fire. Mm-hmm. I don't know about you, Thumper, but in all of my life up until Trump, I've never seen a sewer system catch on fire. I've never seen fires coming out of storm grates in my entire life. And I'm in my late 60s.
No. Like, well, and
did that start happening just because Trump got in? Now they catch on fire?
Yeah. Well, and you know, and palm trees burning from the inside out, you know.
Yeah, that's always been normal too, right?
Yeah. You know, a palm tree that's part of the landscaping of a shopping mall. Yeah.
Yeah.
A little.
Let alone what happened in Paradise, where you have cement, you know, homes burning down, including their cement or their granite fireplaces are literally turned into vaporized. But a trash can that's made out of plastic 10 feet away doesn't get burned at all.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
What? How is that possible?
A little on the odd side, I would.
Yeah, a little odd. Agree. Something's wrong with this. The laws of physics seem to have, from my understanding, that's not a normal fire. Oh, that's just sparks from a forest fire. Yeah.
Now something came up. You know, the Paradise fire. You brought that up, and that reminded me of something, and that was that community was targeted because it was a community of bad people. I can't think. Yeah, were they hybrid aliens? Were they horrifically satanic worshipers, or you know, what scoop do you have on that, Gene?
That was entirely 100% non-terrestrial good people that were going to come out and do disclosure. And the call said, no, you're not.
Okay, so, but they were
targeting laser. This is before Trump. So they you can see the infrared targeting laser come down, and then you see the 4 trillion watt laser that is DARPA system coming off the Corona satellite, and the other various, targeted by Big Bird and other things that came down and burned that place to a cinder.
Oh yeah, I mean they cooked it to well done, that's for sure. Now, Gene, some of the things that I've been hearing just here in the last few days is people have been reporting explosions in Washington D.C. Now, what's your intel on that?
So yeah, from what I had, the White House had been dark for 10 days with the flag flying at half-mast, and it was actually the 1776 flag, which was interesting. And then on the last night, just before sunrise, the lights, the porch light came on, but it wasn't the regular light. It was just kind of a low level, kind of like street light that's kind of the amber, kind of brownish color. And you could see a whole lot of little kids coming out, and they had a whole lot of buses parked with tinted windows. And so I told that to Linda Paris, and she didn't find that one. She found another one of little kids coming out during the day, actually. And so what my other than those 2 videos, my information had said that there were tunnels that go all over the place, under every street and everywhere, connecting Congress, the White House, Senate, Supreme Court, everything in DC. And it is just the worst ever seen, that the amount of, little kids and stuff that they were, like we remember back during Obama's term, there was the pizza hot dog parties. And, if you go to the FBI site, it says what that means. And they're talking, it was $36,000 pizza hot dog party. Where's all the delivery trucks pulling up for that? I didn't see anything. I didn't see any news about that. Nothing happened. Just we're having a party. So those, they're rescuing that now that, there's nobody's home during that time frame, so they could get them all out. Yeah. So you can see pizza and hot dog, what that means. So, and then they cleaned that all out, and then it's so bad. They're talking about just blowing it up what they can, and then flooding the rest with the Potomac. And so they're blowing entrances, when I'm being told, blowing entrances from the Potomac to flood the thing, because it's so, now that they've got the assets out of there that were protecting them. That was the first thing that came in, as there were Ospreys and Special Forces copters came in shortly after the inauguration. There was a whole massive amount. And then after that, you had a line of police cars come in.
I saw the line of police cars, and I saw the all the buses that showed up there around the Congress building that one morning. It was medic. What I forget the guys.
Yeah, before all that, there was a whole line of Ospreys and Special Forces type helicopters came in. So I was told that was for high level. Then the other stuff, the police cars were for the assets that were protecting the pizza and the hot dogs in the domes, using cabal terminology here. And then the buses were for those once they had the assets that were protecting them, keeping the alliance and the Special Forces and the Marines and stuff and the National Guard from helping the children. And so that's what I've been told. And that's 2 videos and 1 other source. So for me, 3 sources is a bet. I know people like, I want more, I want it now. And, for me, lose the microwave mentality. It'll come when it comes. We're in the middle of a war for the human race and the entire earth. And you cannot be showing the Insurrection Act signed by Trump. You cannot be showing the Second Declaration of Independence signed by Trump. You cannot be showing all of this. The military pays for the wages for them, is paid by the civilians, but the civilians aren't in charge of the military. The POTUS is in charge of the military, the real POTUS. And if not that, then the Secretary of Defense. If they figured the POTUS or there's some kind of discrepancy or something, then it's Secretary of Defense. So you can't, civilians don't know how to run a worldwide op. You can't compromise top secret information and get people dead. It gets people dead. And so, and it means it's not just a small thing right now. This is the best way to do it, the way they're doing it. You either do it this way, or you have World War III like we had World War II, where it's out in the open and you don't have tens of millions of people. You have hundreds of millions, if not billions of people dying. They've evaluated this to the minute detail for over 100 years about exactly what is the safest, least loss of life, least loss of property. Yeah, you've got COVID and this vaccines and this stuff doing this. And yes, people are dying from that. But would you rather have 100 million people in this country alone die? So, yes, it's terrible. And I wish there were some other way to do it. But this cabal has been entrenched for thousands and thousands of years, and they're infiltrated everything. Now the Alliance did the reverse. They infiltrated BLM, and they, like that supposed thing in the White House, they got all the laptops and they got tons of information.
You mean Congress?
Yeah, in Congress. And when they did that January 6th thing, they did that fake, said it was Trump and all this, and it was all, Black Lives Matter and Antifa. And they had infiltrated them. So you had SEALs go in and get all the laptops and found massive information, and some of that, along with some other individuals they have in high security lockdown that have a life sentence, that are giving information nonstop, told about all these tunnels in DC. So that's what's getting between those laptops and a couple high level profile individuals that are thinking they may have hung themselves, that they didn't, are giving all this information up now. And those people are being kept in a lockdown situation where, again, I know people think, why is it we're afraid of telling the civilians about these people? Because if you riot and go after those people, when you find out what they've done, riots don't just get the people you're after killed. They get a lot of people, a lot of property damage, a lot of lives are lost of innocent people. They've got to be taken to a situation where, kind of like Jackie Gleason said. So there's got to be a situation where they're out of the range of ravaging mobs that, when this all comes out, want to get at them. That's the way it's got to be done. If you can't understand that, read Sun Tzu's Art of War and study the history, that when the people get irate because of their government and you have a mob situation, there's a lot of innocent lives lost. Oh
yeah, and unnecessary property destruction along the way as well.
That's actually what the cabal would want.
Oh yeah, they definitely would prefer that, because with that you have chaos. Actually, what we have going here, and I like what you're saying. Not because but you and I have talked, and the complexity of what is happening in our world right now is so difficult. I think I told somebody the other day, try to imagine infinity and try to wrap your head, just keep thinking infinity and try to wrap your head around that. It's impossible, because you just keep going, you keep going. Well, this is very, very similar to that. Try to wrap your head around a global system of evil and corruption, and I mean, let's just put it under the whole umbrella of pure, unadulterated evil. It has invaded every aspect of our world. Our world has been given over to this up to this point. And this is the time when God takes back his world and says, Satan, blow on the whistle, you're out of the pool.
It's exactly right, Thumper. And, one of my first red pill document was Jack Mitlam, Operation Vampire Killer 2000. And he wrote that he was a police officer because of the evil he saw in the police force. It's everywhere. It's in every church. It's in every post office. They're stuffing ballots and all kinds of, it's everywhere. You can't get this out unless you do it this way. It has, and the Space Force came first. They cleaned it out, got it under control, and got 1/5 of the deep, the dark fleet to that. There was an admiral that didn't like the non-terrestrial involvement and the Black Goo situation, and he put people in charge of certain ships that he could trust, and they defected to the Alliance. That allowed him to clean out the solar system, which pretty much, other than the the MCC on Mars and a few other installations, is clean. And so that's an ongoing battle there too. But I mean, think about that. You got other planets in the system involved. You've got systems outside this system involved. You've got, I mean, it's like 107 and magnified what he said to me, like you said, by infinity. You've got 1,000 possible in-game moves. You're in the end game, but you have over 1,000 possibilities going out, 1,000 moves.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then, a genius can hold 50 of those in his head, somebody like Trump. A quantum computer can hold 500 of those 1,000.
Mm-hmm.
Only God can hold all of this in his head. So it's, why it's so important is people to stay in faith and stay in prayer and stay that God is going to bring Satan down. That's the only way this can happen. We got to stay solid in faith and out of fear. But, the other thing is to realize, I mean, if you can't believe in God and you don't know, start studying physics and mathematics and look at the fact that there's only one golden proportion that underlies the DNA. It underlies the way sunflower spiral and storm spiral and galaxies. That means there's one creator. You can't have a big bang creating this universe, because you can go into a salvage yard 100 times with bombs and blow it up, and you're not going to assemble a 767 by blowing up the salvage yard. You're not going to organize things by blowing things up. Organization based on one mathematical constant, phi, the golden mean, means there's one cause. Mm-hmm. And that's the God of all things that created everything. So we're going to have a Red Sea moment. And it's going to have to be tough, because we didn't get here by easy way. We got here by a lack of paying attention. Over thousands of years, the human race just let things go. That, okay, I'll be about me, and okay, it's my neighbor that I think is doing this, or this and this and this, or it's this person here, or I can do what I need to do because I have to get here soon. So if I cut somebody off when I'm driving because I got to get there, it's okay. It doesn't matter. And we've been taught to have a microwave mentality, to get what I want now and not to be concerned about others. That's how we got here. Mm-hmm. They gave us their mind, a mind of power, structure, and me. And that's how they are. Me, and to heck with everybody else. And so we have to have where this, other than the fact that it's the safest way to go, it also has to happen such that, if you remember back, like my mother grew up in the Depression, and she hoarded like mad. And I had a poor man's mentality too, and a pinching every penny and everything, and that has gone for generations. Mm-hmm. Once this gets done, if this plays out the way the Alliance has, it's going to hurt. But that will make so that this will never happen again. It will go into the human consciousness so deep, it will go into the genetics, where we never, ever again get complacent and me. And I want it now. We're going to learn to trust in God, trust in each other, have each other's back, stop poking at each other and judging the book by the cover, and the authority is truth, and look and do our due diligence and do our own research and do what is called to uphold the law of God and uphold the law of the country. In this country, we have a sacred document called the Constitution for these United States for America. People don't even know it. Mm-hmm. They don't even know the fake one, let alone the original. When original president swore under that Constitution to protect the Constitution, because it's a sacred document, from all enemies, foreign and domestic, that's gone. Because they started making people not learn the Constitution, they didn't notice when it got switched in 1812, that now they swear, and they don't swear to protect it from whom? All enemies, like you go in the military, foreign and domestic. So you got a domestic enemy that's actually foreign. And people didn't even notice. And so the whole human race has got to learn this lesson, that they have got to know and pay attention. And, if you're looking around and you look and you learn like masonry, and you learn all their symbols, and then you look at every single corporation on earth has a Masonic symbol, something's radically wrong. It means that group has something to do with the money of every single corporation on earth. Somehow the people running that group, or somebody in that group, or something, that should start setting alarm bells off in your head. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And then you start looking, what is the Federal Reserve? And it's not federal, and it's not I mean, people haven't been doing research and letting it from the get-go when the bankers, did the banker holiday and they pulled the banks pulled the money out, and then they said there's a run on the banks, everybody goes to the bank, there's nothing there. Yeah, because they ran it already. And they didn't look that when the Federal Reserve Act was passed, that it really wasn't passed, not by even the fake Constitution. They just let it ride. And so they got control of this country. We can never allow, once we clean this up with the amount of death and the amount of pain and suffering, think of all the suffering you're going through. Never again then. You get through this and, I understand, I want it and I want it now. And I'm tired of waiting. This has been thousands of years coming down. So you're not going to get it now. You need to wait, and it's going to take what it takes. But it's happening incredibly fast. I've been sitting with this for over 30 years, and I never even thought we'd get to this point. So see this, it's incredible.
It is.
They've accomplished since Trump got in a little over 4 years ago.
It is absolutely incredible. Yes.
And now the court cases are in the Supreme Court now. They're in there now, so they can overturn this still at any, and if they don't do that, then we can go through the way that it's going through in Myanmar. The last recourse of this country is that the military, under the Constitution, has the right in the Constitution to take back the government if the government has been taken through treason and sedition, which it has. Really obvious if anybody watched Mark Lindell or is listening at all or paying attention at all. And like 107 said, you can erase every voting machine in the country and all the ballots and everything. It's not going to be erased from the people's minds that 80% of everybody knows in this country who they voted for. And it wasn't the guy that's supposedly in whatever studio or wherever he is. It looks like a studio to me, because sometimes the back wall isn't even lined up right. I'm like, the desk is wrong. What's outside the window is wrong. And the button on the desk is not there. And I mean, there's so many things wrong with that picture.
Yeah, the one of the things that we did a show, and if you look on the screen right now, Gene, you'll see.
I've seen that he did an amazing job.
Yeah, this is an incredible document. And before the show, Indigo and I were talking about, put this up on the screen here, and if kind of throw this at you. Maybe just maybe concentrate on like the secret space program or the Galactic Federation, or anything in this area here. Is there anything there that kind of strikes your fancy that you'd like to comment on?
Yeah, I've literally gone through every square inch. This pretty much compiles about 80% of my 30 years of research. So, I've got the backstory on pretty much every single thing in there. So, like if you go into the Montauk Project and all that, and the Philadelphia experiment, I've met two guys who were on the Eldridge.
Really?
Yep. Got one.
Really?
Yeah.
There's actually people still left from that, huh?
Yeah. When I was stationed in Hawaii in Pearl Harbor, and I was working out on Ford Island, I had to take a small boat to get back and forth, and I was sitting on the small boat, and this guy, it wasn't because he didn't have a right hand. I just got this feeling, like something calling to me to talk to him. And he looked at me and he goes, "In answer to your question, yes." I go, "You're telepathic?" He goes, "Yes, to that question as well." And I go, "So you were on the Eldridge?" And he goes, "That's how I lost my right hand. Because, if you were leaning on a steel bulkhead and it turns into energy, organic matter can go through non-organic matter when it's energy. Fortunately for them, the decks were teak. So that's organic. So they didn't go through the decks. People that were laying in their bunks wound up halfway through their bunks and died. And so that actually did happen. And, then prior to that person, I'd actually had a guy that I met that showed me a picture of the fantail with him sitting there. I could see, he's, 20, 30, 40 years older now. he was a lot older, but I could see, that was him. And so I had one of the original copies of the Philadelphia experiment where you see that kind of pinkish kind of video in it. That's actually from the experiment. That's actual photography. And so he was sitting on the port side on the fantail. I went home and freeze framed, but I talked to him for about 5 hours all on that.
Well, I read the book, The Philadelphia Experiment, many years ago, and before they ever made the movie. And fascinating book. And it's the original movie seemed to follow what I read in the book fairly closely, slightly Hollywoodized, but for the most part, it was pretty close. The fact that there was a indentation left in the water, and then the ship appeared in a kind of a misty fog in Norfolk, I believe, and then when it reappeared back in Philadelphia, there was any number of people had their bodies had materialized partially through solid metal, and it was just this incredibly horrific outcome from this experiment.
Yep. The Russians actually tried to reproduce it. They have in Russia, they're in the mountain range up in the Urals, I think it is. There's the bow of a ship coming out of the side of a cliff.
Mm-hmm.
You can still see it to this day.
Interesting. I hadn't heard about that. But
didn't work out well at all for them.
Yeah.
Even worse for them than it did for us.
So what else? So
on that chart, there's a few things I've learned that are not correct.
Okay, well, let's take a look at them.
So if you go to Inner Earth civilizations, the Anshar,
okay,
they're actually a parasitic race that are not from our future. They're from a parallel Earth, and they freed off negative emotions in Lush. And they're trying to reestablish their timeline that comes from the New World Order.
Okay, now, is that the group that Corey Good is talking about?
Yep.
Okay.
That would make sense.
Yep. That's why they sit in the pods. They're putting feelings and emotions and trying to get back their timeline that goes to the New World Order. They lost it because of the Great Awakening. That's why they came back. They were trying to stop the Great Awakening.
Interesting.
Hold on, I'll be right back in a minute. My little doggy girl needs to go out. I'll be right back.
Oh, okay.
The Great Awakening interferes with their ability to harvest energy. That would not be what they want. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, fascinating stuff here tonight. I want to, just put that out there for Gene. Maybe he's listening there while he puts his puppy dog out. By the way, that picture you see on the screen is one of his pups. He's got I think that's one of two that he has. And look at the markings on his face there, Indigo. That's amazing. That's a beautiful dog.
Yeah, beautiful symmetry. Those eyes are killer. The dog even knows how to smile by the looks of it. But
oh yeah,
pretty fierce too.
Yeah. Yeah, Gene's an animal guy, that's for sure. He loves his dogs, and he sent me a lot of
the thought that before he gets back, the thought that was lingering from our discussion about the election and what many people really know, 80 million people really know what the truth is about the results of the alleged residency of quote unquote president-elect, etc. And it takes something to unite all of us so that we're among those 80 million, and we need to be able to link energy together with other people so that we are a single force.
Mm-hmm.
So I know it, you know it, Stoley knows it, Karen Malikian knows it, Light Switch knows it, everybody out in the chat knows it, right? But there's some sort of a unification of that energy into a power head of a united front.
Mm-hmm.
That's when we're going to be able to make change.
Right. Where, you know, like Michael Jackson said, you got to become the change you want to see.
Mm-hmm.
You want to change the world, change yourself. Because it's like Einstein said, which is that everything is energy and frequency, and that's all there is to it. If you match the frequency of the
Actually,
reality,
that was Tesla, not Einstein.
Oh, sorry, Tesla.
Yeah, resonance. Then resonance occurs,
if you
right?
match the frequency, you get that reality. You get that reality. So we've got to become that. That's why it's so important that we have the patience and we have the respect for each other and the caring for each other, so that when you're out driving, you don't cut people off. You're out in the store, you get out of the way when people coming down the aisle, and learn to be like it used to be 30 years, 40 years ago, where we're considerate and respectful to each other. And we think of the other people as much as we think of ourselves. So somebody's coming, you get them, they look like they need to get off the freeway, let them off. They need to get on the freeway, let them on. One car isn't going to make a difference. You're in the store and you don't take up the whole aisle at Home Depot or Costco or something where it's a massive aisle with 3 people. I mean, we learn to be considerate and respectful, and then compassionate and understanding, and stop judging what we think people are, and learn the people, and be there for and learn your neighbors, and be like it used to be, where we had people that knew their neighbors and you watched out for each other. You're there for each other. That's how this is going to come. And on that chart, that's what the Anchar, to show you, they can't do the feeding off loose like they used to, and the ADs, the aid Dracos, can't do what they're doing. They need kids every day now to hold shape. So if you watch what Corey Good said, how you go to 4th density, and this is in the law of 1 too, that you become hive-minded. You join with everybody in your species. No, you become telepathic, but you don't join. When you go from 3rd density to 4th density, you actually join with 12 parallel Earth use that did a specifically massive like you had a wish I could have, should have had, I should have done this different. You actually merged with that 11 other use that made primary decisions in your life differently, so you can learn from your own self. That's how Ascension goes. It's 12 every time merge. Where 4th to 5th, it's another 12. So you have 144. So you're becoming wiser as an individual in how to serve Creator by making different, how decisions work and what's the outcomes and all this. It's not becoming AI hive-minded. That's what Corey is saying. The Anchar that's what the Anchar told him. And you'll notice that some of the symbols on them are satanic symbols. Again, also on that chart, you have the Galactic Federation. It's actually the Galactic Alliance, or the Guardian Alliance, that's on the good side. The Galactic Federation is the Ashtar Command. And the Ashtar Command is one of the few non-terrestrial groups that are still trafficking children and humans off-world. So to the other way, away from Area 51. No, the other way.
Let's see.
Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Now go up. So where you see the Galactic Federation is what you're looking for.
Yeah, I'm too close.
Yeah, zoom out. You're too big.
Yeah.
You're too zoomed in to find it.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. Ancient builder race, lunar operation, the Galactic UN. Let's see here.
There's one in the middle that says Galactic Federation. It's on the right side, though. Not that side. That's the left side.
There
you go. So the Galactic Federation is actually the Ashtar Command, which are how the cabal works. They get your confidence. They look like they're the good guys. They do, but that's Jesus Sananda, which is not Jesus Christ, the Son of God. They've been playing the game that they're here for us, but they're actually one of the few groups still trafficking humans off-world. The Guardian Alliance, that is part of the Galactic Alliance, which is part of the Infinite Alliance of Free Worlds. That's the good side of the coin that's helping humanity. And so the ancient builder race is essentially all beyond 8th density now, so that is like not there anymore. The Super Federation is an extension of the company or the corporation or the crown off-world. That's all that is. So they, they administrate all the, up until the Solar Warden, which is composed of Radiant Glory and Radiant Guardian, depending if you're inside from the sun to the asteroid field is Radiant Guardian. And then after the asteroid field is Radiant, up to the Kuiper Belt is Radiant Glory. That's part of Solar Warden. So they're pretty much in control of the solar system. They're being helped by the Galactic Alliance. Up until they got that, the Super Federation was in charge. That's Mars Colony. That's the one that's not yet under control on the moon. That's still doing massive stuff with super soldiers and, AI into people and all kinds of terrible stuff. So a lot of this stuff in this egg right here is really not a good deal. The golden triangles are really good. The blue avian doesn't really exist in this part of the universe. They're from the blue octant, which is way out there. They're not even over here hardly at all. So that's not the golden triangles are good and helping us a little bit. I've had some interaction with them. Then the blue spheres, that didn't actually occur. That was done by another group, actually.
Now, because a lot of these things now, I'm aware of a lot of this stuff because of the stuff that Corey Good's been doing over on that he originally did over on Gaia Network, and starting to follow him several years ago. We do have a question out here in chat though, Gene, and the question was Corey good or bad? I mean, where's Corey Good in this?
If you're talking the clone or the original.
Now I've heard that I heard that people were saying that there was a clone.
The one that's greasy and overweight is the clone. The one that's thin and short-haired is the original now.
Okay, so now what was the point in the clone and how they get the but what did they do with the original?
In a dome.
They've got him locked away?
Yep.
Okay. Interesting. Because he did make there was
I'll give you an example. He put out late last year that there was a Russian submarine that took out a Cabal submarine that was a C_A type submarine. I decoded that on Blessed to Teach a year before that. That was the time frame in which Pence was called back when he was headed up to
up
Putin
to
was
the
called
northeast
back on the same day. That happened almost a year before that. Why is he reporting something just happening now that happened a year ago? That was the USGS Rathbone that fired the nuclear missiles at Hawaii that the Russian submarine took out, and they got damaged, and 14 sailors on the submarine lost their life. So Putin got called back, and then they picked up the red phone and talked to Trump. So he called back Pence because it was a national emergency. And so that was actually, if you go to the show that I did that decode, it was one of the very early decodes I did, actually before I did the first dumb decode. It was very, very early on. It was like, 2018, and Corey's talking about it in late 2019 or 2020 timeframe. And so he's not getting that. Clone isn't getting any intel anymore because all of the insiders that were going to the original aren't going to go to the clone.
Right. Another question I have for you, we have a lot of people out here that are adding their 2 cents to, what they believe is happening. And, I have, I kind of weigh people in I give them a plausible scale. Okay. Not so plausible or plausible,
That's how I work. I go on percentages. So, my intel with Corey, I would say is 95%. On the Galactic Federation, I'd say 98.5. Yeah, on Blue Avians 99.98.
Mm-hmm.
On Law of One, being channeled from Ra. That's fine, but they said that two of them, in the book itself, it said two of them went negative. They went to 5D negative. So if I'm saying you're channeling, again, never a good idea, because you have no idea what you're channeling. And it says I am Ra, but two of them are negative. So which are we talking to? One of the two negatives or the good ones?
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? And so you get into, like, I think it's the third book. It's full of tarot, and it's all over the place. It's just totally, I mean, just, and then at the fifth book, when they get into the personal stuff, they go into that they're close associates with Aleister Crowley.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, the guy who started the Church of Satan? Okay, I think I'm done reading the book now. I wish I'd read this book first. I mean, it had a lot of good information into it, but when I got to that point, I didn't finish anymore.
Yeah, I've read I think the first two books. It's been a long time since I picked it up.
I read almost through. It's about halfway through the fifth book that they talk about that they went and met with one of the guys, that the main guy and the lady went and met with one of their good friends, who is a really, also another one of, they met their two good best friends on Earth, which is this one guy and the other guy was Aleister Crowley.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay, I'm done. I know what that's about. So, okay.
So another question I want to throw at you. Okay. Right now we've got this massive weather system that is just beating the heck out of the central part of the country all the way down to the Gulf Coast.
Yep.
And I mean, all of this green energy crap, the windmills, the solar farms, all of this stuff is proving out to be absolutely worthless, useless, a bunch of garbage right now. And we've got people that
kind
are
of like what Trump said, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so we've got it's hard not to think that this has not been engineered in some form or fashion, and by the cabal, but at the same time, the folks have got to get a dose of this in order to, so much of what we're going through is to get people to wake up and realize, this is not just your everyday vote stealing and everything else. I mean, it goes so much deeper on all of this. What's your take on how people are absorbing what's going on right now and around in the world around them? Is this waking them up?
I think it is, because like I watched a video of several sports bars watching the Super Bowl, and Biden came on and they go, not the whole bar, not my president. I was like, well, people, and you're getting a lot of buyer remorse. Even the 20% that did vote for him, I see 10% of them are like, wow, was that about the dumbest thing I've ever done? And, what is happening, is that they have, people are waking up to the fact that it's not just this election in the US that they stole. They've stole every election everywhere on the earth since at least 1947. I mean, at least, just after they got the non-terrestrial craft out, a couple non-terrestrial craft that the MJ-12 pretty much wrenched control of the US, along with some other assets that they signed treaties with, along with who the Third Reich did, and then you got the Fourth and the Fifth Reich developing from that. And they they didn't even need to do that. They were actually working on anti-gravity in the 1890s. They didn't have to go that way, and they paid dearly for going that way. And that's why 1/5 of the Dark Fleet broke away, because they realized that they'd made a deal with the devil, literally. That now their captains of their ships have to get black goo, and they have to have an AD, a high level Draco Prime on every ship. It's like, wow, when they first got the property on the moon for their base, their swastika-shaped base up there. They thought they're going to be honored by them by signing that treaty, and they got the top 90 of their top SS people assembled in that base, and the Draco Pirate surrounded them, the upper echelons and Hitler and all that, saying, "Oh my goodness, we're going to be honored. They signed this great treaty for them. We're going to help them do the stuff for them. They gave us all this great technology in this base," and they just shredded them and tore them apart. I mean, that's like not a good deal. That's a pretty filthy deal. And they've realized, they didn't have to go there. They were working on anti-gravity back in the 1890s. They would have been Victor Schauberger and Maria Orsic, and the technologies they got from that, plus what they found in Tibet and in India, they would have had, maybe not quite as soon, but they would have had it within 5 or 10 years anyway. They already had the base built. They could have been patient and not had to go that way. And then we wouldn't have this part of the cabal, and, although they still have their mentality, but it wouldn't have been so bad for them. And that's, we need to even learn from the cabal that, not to let the ends justify the means. So we don't have to have it now. If you wind up having the ends justify the means, you wind up being the cabal that do as thou wilt to get what you want. We have to respect life, and do as much as we can by the laws of God and the laws of this country and
Right.
the same for the rest of the world, and respect all life as much as possible, even in the dumps they're taking out. They don't do extreme prejudice. They have technology where, for the majority of people in there, humans and most other species, they can incapacitate them without destroying life, so that then they can take them to military tribunals if it's on planet or not. And then they can rescue the children of the other assets that are there and technologies and things without massive destruction of property, including on the surface of the earth. We need to do the same thing. So it's very important that we learn from everybody's mistakes, including our own and including theirs, that we don't, first of all, if you eradicate the cabal without learning the lesson,
Exactly.
It'll
come
vacuum.
back.
You create a power vacuum.
Right.
You're going to have a cabal again.
Yes.
You don't learn the lesson. Go ahead, Indigo.
Oh, so absolutely true. I was thinking, as you were talking about the reactions of people at the Super Bowl, at the wherever you were. I think people are beginning to emerge from the cloud of assumption that elections just happen and there's really not much to question. They're starting to learn, wow, there is a lot to question, and they're starting to wrap their heads around the idea that it's nothing new, and that this has been going on for a good long time. And that will bring people to a new awareness, a kind of a new vigilance about all sorts of process that go on in our country. And it's not going to happen overnight. This takes a while for people to adjust to the idea that they can't just trust that when they check off the boxes and throw it in the ballot machine that it got counted right. You can't. There are a lot of things that people are needing to rethink and to empower their ability to be vigilant. In my view, it's like a little bit of an awakening for people. Well, it's one part of the awakening. That's one thought that was going through my mind, and I had many more thoughts, but I've been listening. It's fascinating listening to you, but I could add in more as well.
Yeah, thank you. And additionally, to learn from the cabal is all their symbols. Like Confucius said, symbols rule the world. And so we've been not learning the symbols that they give and not knowing they're infiltrating us. And so you go into churches and you see the sigil of Satan, you see crosses upside down, you see Masonic tiling on the floor, you see the pillars of Joazmboquid.
And not know what it means, right?
And not know what it means. It's important we learn their symbols so that we can decode what we're looking at. So you go in church, you know what you're seeing. Is this really a church to the God of all creation or some other fake God? Is what I'm looking at, look at the companies and the logos for the companies, and it's just every single company.
Symbolism galore. Yep.
We need to learn it so that when we eradicate it, we learn. And when we see a new symbol, like the peace symbol, what they thought was a peace symbol, It's actually the rune of death. The peace symbol is upside down. That's now the rune of death. The peace symbol comes from when you built a house. You had a pillar going up to the top of the point, and then you had two coming up the side, and then you put an arc around that makes it really stable, supports the roof. So you're at peace because the hail and the snow and the rain don't hit you in the head. And that's how that symbol came about. You throw that upside down, and now you're standing on top of the roof, getting pouring rain on your head and snow and ice and hail, and not peaceful at all. And you wind up dead. So you see that. If people had seen that and noticed that Dealey Plaza was the rune of death, the trade tower had the rune of death built into it. I mean, you don't think something's going to happen at the building when every single beam going up has the rune of death? I mean, it's like, right. Hello, we need to pay attention to what they're showing us ahead of time, because they're telling you what they're going to do. And so, once we get this cleared out, is to be ever vigilant from now on.
So, Gene, another question for you here. International partners in this. Who are the good guys and who are the bad guys? People.
Good question.
People kind of want to get a feel for who's part of the. I mean, because we've heard, there's like 186 countries that have signed on as part of the alliance, and at any one time, it seems like they're in, they're out. Now, my answer to that is that all of these countries have the same thing we have. That we have good guys and we have bad guys. We have our white hats in this country, and we have our communist actors in this country. We have the CIA that's been, infiltrated to incredible lengths, as well as many other organizations, but I just use the CIA as an example. That so we're actually seeing each of these countries, China, Myanmar, and many others, whose good guys are fighting their bad guys. What can you add to that?
Yeah, so from my understanding, most of it's already done during Trump's term, and he had to step down from the corporation to bring back the republic and to let the cabal, they think they won. They're not used to not thinking that way. That's their modus operandi. They don't believe they can lose. So it shows who's who. But then you also have to realize you've got, agents, counter agents, counter. It's like any war. You've got agents, double agents, triple agents. And then everything's compartmentalized and segmented. So I might say some information, then somebody else, if you ask somebody, they may contradict or say no, because only one person in the alliance has the entire plan, and that person isn't on Earth. Mm-hmm. That person's in charge of Solar Warden, and that person isn't even usually in the solar system. So they're keeping that person safe, and that person and about 10 other people that make up the queue are the only people that have the full plan. Most of those are never on Earth because everything else is segmented and compartmentalized. So if the enemy gets somebody, then you don't get a major part of the operation. You don't get the plan. You get a pocket of the plan. And then additionally, you have to realize that they will periodically, I've had it done to myself, I don't care for it too much, where I got information and it turned out to be that I was being used to put out misinformation for the enemy to think that's what's going on. Gene Decode said that, and he's been really reliable. So now we're going to go over and, think that's what's going on. And it happened to me twice so far. Mm-hmm. But, and it happens to other people too. So they'll find out something, put out something, and, but then also if you take somebody like General Flynn and point blank ask him something like, as a military in charge, he can't answer that. Yes. He's correct, in charge of a major part of this. He has an oath of non-disclosure. He, at the very least, goes to prison for that. At the very least, if he compromises and it causes loss of life, he would wind up being executed for that. He has to say no. He has no option. You put him in a situation where he has to lie. Mm-hmm. Is there a cue? No, he's going to have to say no, because he is, literally actually active duty in charge of a major part of this. And so, but then, is he or is he not, or is this or is that not, or is the insurrection act or is it not? So we're at a massive war, and everybody's practicing Sun Tzu's art of war, which means, when you're near, you make you look like you're far. When you're far, you make it look like you have people who look or white or who's who. At this point, it's really because we're in the thick of it now. We're in the middle of the storm. It's just it's everywhere, and so even the timelines are my remote viewing, I can't even hardly do that now because the timelines are jumping in and out like mad. I have days where I don't even know what day it is anymore because the timelines are jumbling so bad.
So they can shift, right? They can shift. They're not fixed. They're
not fixed, and they go by the majority of who's focusing on what. That's why the cabal has been doing the FFs and all that for so long, and doing the preconditioning, the long-range preconditioning, and showing in movies and cartoons what they're going to do. They're essentially going to the court of heaven. Here's what we're going to do. Then they create the incident like 9/11. Everybody votes in terror. Okay, see, that's what we get. We get to get our vote. We got our day in court. You didn't show up, so we get to do it. They've been doing that to farm our minds, which create our reality. And so if you can get the majority of people to not trust in the plan, to believe that we're losing, to believe that that's real, that he's in there for real, then it will become real. And that's what people have to realize Trump won, realize he's coming back. It is the way it is. It's going to take a little bit of time and a little bit of patience, but it's going to take what it takes. I'm focusing on, I see many timelines, and each timeline, each manifold, there's 8 lines per manifold. On this manifold, you have March 4th as a big date. Right now, the cost for hotels in Trump, in the Trump Plaza has doubled for the dates of 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, as has every single place you can get a room in the DC area. So obviously something's planned for the 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th. I'm focusing on, for me, I'm focusing on, we're going to watch the person who really won the race inaugurated. That's what I'm on. Not, I know there's a timeline where we're going to watch Biden and Harris being sworn in the Supreme Court. But, what you focus on is what happens. So, people got to realize that's making the timelines jump all over the place by picking up on what the cabal wants and believing that, or doubting what's really happening, or doubting the military's in charge. Look around, pay attention, see all these weird earthquakes, see kids, videos of kids coming out of the White House. You can find them. Go do your research, see the military hardware moving, see the flights moving, watch monkey works, watch, all of this stuff, and pay attention and realize something is going on. And, look at the guy, he's got a mask on. It's obviously not him. The facial structure is wrong. You can wear a mask. You can't change the bone structure. So the nose isn't the right nose. The cheekbones aren't the right cheekbone. The angle of the jaw is not right. He changes from left hand to right handed. And now we pick that up. So now they flip the camera around. But now where the car is parked is on the other window. So no, he was left-handed initially. And we caught it. And then the parking lot is too close to the window. It used to be over a hedge, across a lawn, and over another hedge. Now it's out the window, over a hedge. Is the secret security call box with the president logo not on there? The wallpaper changes overnight. The curtains change back and forth overnight. The wall on the right side, as you're looking at Biden, has a crack. Wherever that stage is, they forgot to put the clamps on the walls. There was a gap in the back wall one time. I'm like, this is really obviously a movie.
Well, my response to some of that is, are they really that careless? Or I mean, it's some of this is just incredibly. I mean,
I don't see the cabal.
Third graders can do a better job.
Yeah, the cabal's never been this sloppy.
And that's what is really kind of throwing this off. It looks like it's bad photoshopping by some kid in somebody's basement, and that's what throws people off as well, because it's so amateurishly done that you go, they come on, please,
Yeah, because he gets onto Air Force One, supposedly, which is a 767, which doesn't have, you know, the top goes up before it goes into the back of the fuselage, it drops down. That's a little, you know, the door is tiny compared to the height of the fuselage. What he's getting on is very small plane. It's not a 767, first of all. Second of all, the tail numbers are N9300. That's not Air Force One. Air Force One is one of two planes. It's either 28,000 or 29,000. It's not Air Force One. He's going up the ramp and it's just a metal ramp. He slips because it doesn't have the carpet, you know, attached to it like it's supposed to.
Oh, good observation. I didn't catch that.
Who's got the red carpet? The media going in the back end of the plane. They get the red carpet and not the president. You know, the Pentagon has still not allowed him to finish his briefing. The football, the real football, if you know what you're looking at, went down to Mar-a-Lago. The one he's carrying, you know, you see going around with him, isn't the real one. If you know what you're looking at, you got to learn to look, you know, recognize what you're looking at. That's what's important. He pulls up in the Beast, and it's when Obama or Carter or Reagan or Trump, that's polished to a shine. It's immaculate. Now this thing's all rusty and dirty and
oh yeah, I saw
out of a salvage yard.
I saw that. That was absolutely ludicrous.
Obviously not. We're watching, you know, the cabal's not that sloppy. If they're that sloppy, they're not in control. That's what that's telling me. We're watching a movie while they finish mopping it up and taking out the, you know, they've got the high assets. Now they're going, you know, assets have pleaded out and given information and they're doing their part or doing their role or whatever, or they're off somewhere else and somebody else in a mask is doing it. And that while they clean up and the birds are singing and they're cleaning up and working their way down the ladder. Because you got to clean it up from the top all the way down to the city level, to the local cities and townships, into every precinct, into every, you know, battalion, every command, every single post office, every church. You've got to find out who's who all the way down from the top. And so, you know, used to have to infiltrate, you know, they would get people deep into drug trafficking and stuff that were, you know, and they would be in there for years and work their way up. Who's the boss of the boss of the boss of the boss? Now it's beautiful because now we're doing it the other way, much easier. Get the guy on top. And if he wants to stay alive and get a nice place to live for the rest of his life and have a good living condition, he can turn over everything, or you can die. So that's the way it goes, because you've done crimes that go a list so long that nobody could even believe it. I mean, it's pretty much every crime that could be done, you've done. And then some we need to make new laws for, because we didn't even know such crime existed that was so evil and terrible. So, you know, those people plead out, and now we're taking from the top down. But, you know, it's a massive organization. Like Kennedy said, they go in through subversion and infiltration. So I totally agree with you, Thumper. They're not that sloppy. They haven't been that sloppy. If they suddenly got sloppy, something's different. What's different? My take is the alliance is in control.
Well, you know, one of the ideas I've had is they're basically well, and I don't think the alliance would actually operate this way. I think they would just let them flounder around like a fish on a dry beach, rather than say, okay, you are going to do this. Here's your script. You play it out. You know, I've played that idea in my head as well. But if you want the most realistic thing to happen, then it goes along with my theory. If you have electrical work to do, don't hire a plumber. All right. You bring in somebody who has that ability, has that knowledge, and will just naturally do it. It's part of them. It's what they'll do. And so much of this game, I believe, is a masterful job of putting people in a place where they're going to do what naturally comes to them. That way, the movie has realistic actors, because they're actually they're really not acting, they're just being themselves, but they are playing a role that they naturally fall into.
Now, this comes down to something I learned in learning how God works and
Mm-hmm.
how the Alliance works and how the Cabal works. That the answer is almost just like in your military test or when you went to school and you had a multiple choice test. The best answer is almost always all of the above. So I think what we're seeing from my what I can take is that certain assets have been removed and have been replaced by the Alliance. Other assets don't know that are in the Cabal. So we're watching a combination of the Cabal thinking they're in control, kind of sort of being in control, not knowing that some of their assets are replaced and not knowing who's who anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're doing a sloppy job because they don't have the assets, they don't have the money. Most of their kids and stuff and their dumb stuff is all gone in the US and about 22% worldwide. Their Space Force situation is mostly gone. So they're having to rely on for harvesting and things like that for the adrenochrome and chromochrome and the other things they have to stay alive and just not shapeshift in those situations for those that are in that situation. They actually now are doing a lot like where they pronounce somebody dead from the virus situation, and they're not really dead. They're actually been put into a state where it looks like they're dead, but they're not dead, and they're harvesting those people, still keeping the bodies alive because they've agreed to being organ donors. And so we've got all kinds of scenarios running simultaneously where you've got the Cabal still doing what the Cabal does,
Mm-hmm.
while they're seeing who's who, the Alliance, while they have the very important ones under their control or replaced. Mm-hmm. So that we're showing the world what they are about, mm-hmm. and what they would do if they were absolutely in control. But you can't have them absolutely in control, or they would run us off into oblivion real quick.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Gene.
I get a question. Oh,
go ahead, Andy. Go ahead.
I got a question for you, Gene. At what level do you think Joe Biden himself is privy to like the full Cabal plan? Is he like not even capable of comprehending everything? Does he have a slight understanding, or is he just maybe a little scared, playing his role and hoping for the best because he's going for broke?
Yeah, he has been gone a long time. He is what's known as was known as a vril clone. In the Cabal, when they were building the dumps, the deep ones, they found a little lizard-like creature that's about 2 to 3 feet tall. It's called a vril lizard. It has a proboscis on its head, and if you take it at adulthood, it gets that. If you put it over somebody's eye, if you restrain the person and allow it to inject its consciousness through its cerebral spinal fluid into the human, it will kill the person, and then it'll reintegrate. And like the old movie Pod People is actually based on this. It was a soft disclosure of this. It was a plant in that case, but it's actually a lizard that does it. It takes over, reintegrates the person, and becomes the person for a time. After a few years, its ability to access the brain, which is slowly still starting to decompose, the person starts getting dementia and Alzheimer's. So as time goes on, it starts to lose control of the brain and the body eventually. So that's why we see, before the debates, he was not, doesn't even know where he's at. He gets confused with his wife and his daughter, that he's even Joe Biden. If you don't like me, vote for the other Joe, because he knows on some level of it's losing control. So it knows there's another one, and it's slipping because it's starting to lose control of the brain and and so it's getting dementia and Alzheimer's. But that's a long-term progression that takes several years, between 2 and 10 years, depending on the severity of health and what's going on exactly and what type. There's actually different types of dementia, Alzheimer's, depending on what's causing it. And so in his case, he actually has been gone for a while. And so we were actually looking at a pure replacement at this point.
That sort of makes sense.
I've got another, a quick question, and then I've got something I want to show you. But the question is, and I think I've told you this when we talked before, that one of my favorite sci-fi shows is the Stargate series.
Yeah,
Okay,
mine too. A lot of
and
good disclosure.
and I think it was after we had you on as a guest. I was kind of needing something to kind of break the monotony of my world here, and so I started at I've got the entire series on DVD, both Stargate Atlantis, and I just started at episode 1 and go through. And each time I have done that, I've done it twice since President Trump won the election. I get something new out of that series every time. Everything from the like you say, the uh, the body snatching, as in the gold, and then pandemics and timelines and all of these different things, all are addressed in that one TV show, and it's absolutely incredible. And so I find the crossover on that is amazing. Just your comments real quick on that.
Yeah, I agree. I've actually watched it 5 times.
Mm-hmm.
Twice since Trump got in, and I again take away. And I've started going through all kinds of old movies because now that I'm much more red-pilled and awake, like now I'm going through Conan and the Barbarian, the Destroyer.
Ah, yes.
Oh, yeah, and I know the names and I know the symbols. So you've got the all-seeing eye there. You've got the 2 snakes with the rising sun of Lucifer in between them. You've got the eye of in the Destroyer, the eye of Ahriman. Ahriman is one of Satan's names. I'm like, whoa.
Well,
there is so much stuff I missed when this first came out and I first watched it that I just didn't know back then.
My show on Monday, that show I did on the Khazarians and the Khazarian mafia, and well, what is now Kazakhstan was Khazaria back in the I think it was like 780 to about 1500 AD, and it was finally it was so rotten. I mean, it was the epitome of rape, pillage, plunder, Satanism, paganism, just everything. And the Russians and the Persians got tired of it, and they said, if you don't change your ways, we're going to come and change your ways for you. And they said, and they said, you have a couple of choices. Either we come in, or you decide to. And they went to the king of Khazaria, and they said, you need to pick a religion. You don't have a religion. You've got just this chaos. And they picked Judaism, because and the Talmud, the Talmud, and it didn't work out so well, and they went back to their nasty, evil, horrible ways, and then then the Russians and the Persians had enough again, and they said, we're coming in anyway. You guys haven't learned your lesson. We're gonna take you out. And what happened was the same thing that happened in Nazi Germany when they knew that they weren't going to win the war. All the elites grabbed as much as they could of all the technology and or wealth, and split the scene and let the Russians and the Persians come in. And in the meantime, all these elites went out and they went throughout Europe, and they ended up, being these Kabbalists, like the Rothschilds and all of that. And the interesting thing is, they will identify themselves as Jews, but when they check the blood, their blood has absolutely no nothing in their blood that would identify them as Hebrew by any stretch of the imagination. And I thought that was fascinating. But as I was reading this article, I was thinking about these movies, Conan, and all the things we see in those movies of this, just who would have known that there was that's probably what Khazaria was like. Your thoughts?
Absolutely. It's, that's why I went back and watched it, because it really shows the, Khazaria and how it was just utterly immoral, decrepit, evil, and disgusting, and all this power grabbing and money hungry, and just, rape and pillage and everywhere you go. And yeah, it's exactly. And then they just, got forced out and made an oath once they were forced out to make everybody on Earth pay for what was them having be forced out of where they first came to Earth. That's actually where they first came.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that
from here.
And again, that's where you ended up with the Bolshevik Revolution, because they swore to go after Russia and take down Russia because of that, and they were instrumental in implementing the Bolshevik Revolution in Russia, which we know changed world history tremendously, because then we ended up with the Soviet Union and everything else, after that.
Yeah, it's Jacob Schiff, who's again a Rothschild, of Kuhn and Loeb Bank, which is of course another Rothschild banking system that funded Lenin and Trotsky. Mm-hmm. And trained them how to create mob riots, just like they did with Anton and Marat for the French Revolution by Jacob Schiff as well. It gave the gold bullion to fund the French Revolution, also the gold bullion to fund the Bolshevik Revolution. And then actually during World War II, there is a shipment of gold bullion that was put on a train in Berlin that was sent to Moscow, went right through the lines. And there's kind of a side kind of movie called Hogan's Hero or Kelly's Heroes.
One of my other favorite movies.
Yeah, that they took the gold off that train and it wound up in a bank, and that's where it wound up. The train went into a tunnel, and $18 million of the $150 million in gold bullion was offloaded out of the train. So when it showed up in Moscow, there was $18 million in gold bullion missing. That was the bank that it wound up in, and so that is actually a true thing, that a bunch of guys that you see, like in that movie, found out about this gold and went and stole the gold. And the German that was guarding it actually wound up getting a big chunk of it that had the tank out there. That's actually very close to historically perfectly true.
Interesting. Very interesting. Okay. Now, the next thing I want to, Indigo, go ahead.
No, you're on it.
Well, the next thing that I had kind of lined up here was you were mentioning about timelines, and thinking about a lot of the conversations you and I had on the phone and everything, when you were coming on the show over a year ago and stuff. I want to show you this video and get your thoughts on this, because this is wild. And what kind of makes it wild is the fact that this happened right here in Spokane, where I'm at. All right. And this is from Mr. MBB 333 from his website. And I'll just play the video and let him explain it, and then we can talk about it afterwards.
You listen really, really close. When she points the camera to the west-northwest, you can hear something when the glitch occurs. It's really a bizarre video, and now thanks to Dan, we found data on a satellite that also has a very unique. Here's the new analysis, the video I reworked. You can't miss the glitches now. They're very, very easy to see. I took and put the segments where the glitches were at in slow motion. This is from Spokane, Washington, February 6th, around 1:11 p.m. She was doing a 360, as you can see here in the video. When she gets over here into this area, which is in the west-northwest direction, you're going to see a glitch occur. And like she said at first, she thought it was something to do with her software, until it kept happening over and over again. There was the first one. I'm going to put it in slow motion so you can see it very, very easily. Here it is in slow-mo. And someone asked why I use this swirly vortex looking thing. You can see what it looked like in the viewfinder of her camera. It looks like a swirl, or the beginnings of a swirl right there. And in her own words in the email, she was describing what she was seeing as a possible energy vortex. So there it was in slow motion. You can see how it got very distorted. Well, we're going to look at 3 more. Here's the second one. She turns back, and there it happens again in the same exact location. Watch. So she goes back to the right, comes back to the left again. This is the 3rd time. Here it is in slow motion. Same location. Look at that. Some sort of weird interference in that area. Happens again. It'll happen a 4th time. And one thing I want to point out real quick, there's a satellite up here in the sky that we're going to take a look at here in just a moment that also showed a very unique glitch. I put it in slow motion. Here it is in slow-mo. See how it gets kind of warped? That's why I use that, because it looks warped right there. See that? Looks like it's on the verge of turning into some sort of a vortex. Obviously it didn't. Here's a satellite that's in the sky. This is 24, just under 20.
It feels like my entire body is getting an exfoliation treatment. It's literally my whole body.
24 hours
Sorry
later,
about that, guys.
Same location. This is the Goes West satellite. Dan shared this finding with me, and I normally have this on 24 hours a day. See that interference right there? That's on a satellite above Spokane. Spokane's right here. Closer view. Same area. Watch. You're going to see a glitch on the satellite that monitors the same general area. The satellite is in low Earth orbit. This is the GOES 16 satellite. Look at that interference on the satellite. In fact, the interference is still occurring right now. This is on the 7th into the 8th. I've got the satellite up and running right now. It's right here. And this is today, obviously. Same satellite looking at the same area, and you're going to see a glitch once again right there. That's in real time. I screen recorded it earlier this morning in case it looped off and it wasn't there anymore. But Christine was right in here filming in this direction, and she too got some sort of a weird anomaly, some sort of a glitch in her video, like we're seeing right here on the GOES 16. This is the West version of the GOES 16. Unbelievable. So to me, that's way more than a coincidence. You've got Christine down here on the ground with a camera pointing up to the sky, getting anomalies in her video, and you've got a camera up in the sky looking down that is also getting anomalies at around the same time. In fact, they're still occurring, like I said, right now. That's real time as I do this video. So it looks like to me that there is some sort of a weird anomaly going on that's being detected not only on the ground but up in the sky by low Earth orbiting satellite. Again, this is the GOES West. Right there is that anomaly that's showing up in the data of the GOES satellite. So coincidence? I don't know. Got anomalies showing up in satellites above the same general location. Got anomalies showing up in videos from the same general location, and the anomalies appear to be some sort of random interference of some sort that's detected by cameras, but obviously it's not visible. So I hope that turned out a little bit better for some of you guys that could not see the anomaly. Right there it is in slow motion. See it? That occurred multiple times with multiple recording devices from the same location on the ground right there by Christine out of Spokane, Washington. Great observation, and I think we may have confirmation now of the same anomaly from a satellite in the sky. Speaking of sky, here is a jumbo halo sent in by Angela and...
Okay, so your thoughts on that?
Could that be some sort of upper ionospheric energy injection by something like HARP for weather modification or something like that?
Now, if you notice, the entire sky is folding.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Not just there's a toroid for a toroid. That's the event horizon of the timeline shift. That's the best video I've ever seen of someone actually catching them. I've seen them happen, and that's what you see is this. That's what I call the nexus point, at which all the quantum energy the focal point, and then you actually can see the entire sky. It looks like when he does a slow, you can see the clouds like collapse in and come back out again, and literally ripple. So you're actually, that, and that, of course, it's going to affect the satellite because it's actually changing quantum state. And so it's going to totally mess up the feed on the satellite. So that is, that's how I see, when I see timeline changes, I've actually seen that. That is an excellent video of a timeline change.
Is this a natural occurrence? Is this something that will happen, or is it something induced
It's ongoing.
by?
They've been ongoing for a very long time, especially since they started messing with time with the Philadelphia and the Montauk especially with Montauk.
I thought you'd find that one interesting. I thought of you when I saw that, because
thank you for sharing. That's beautiful.
That's exactly what when I watched that, I went, whoa, that could very well be, the timelines scraping against each other or something.
They actually fold over like that. So it looks like everything kind of clumps together like curtains and then opens back up again from the nexus point. It's a quick ripple. It happens, really fast. Even at the slow-mo he's not slow enough to see what really happened there. I'd love if you could send me the link to that.
Yeah, I'll copy and I'll paste it in the Zoom chat for you. You can grab it right from there.
Okay.
Yeah, just open up your chat in Zoom there, and
I got it.
So that would tend to give credence to your thesis that there are multiple timelines and that we have some interaction with them, and perhaps some good directionability into which ones we steer ourselves into.
Yeah, exactly. So, for example, give you a lot of, most people know the Mandela effect. That's timelines. So, I've ridden, because when I transfer submarines, as you get high in rank, you essentially hardly ever get to go to sleep. And they don't let you take leave when you pull in because you're too integral. We can't let you go. What if something happens? You're the only one who can do what you can do. We can't let you take leave. So I've gotten up to where I had 90 days leave on the books. I had to get special permission to go over 60. And so every 2 years, they have to let you take and change commands. And I would purposely change from Pacific to Atlantic or Atlantic. So all the way across the world. So I get 10 days travel and 7 days proceed, plus 2 months advance pay. So I could get caught up on my sleep and everything. And so I've flown literally millions and millions of miles in jet aircraft because they fly across the whole world. And the jet engines, when you're flying civilian aircraft as a military person on leave, you always get a seat over the wing. And I like to look down, and it's difficult because the engine's in the way. So I would pick to be on the other side of the wing so I could see over. And then now where the engine is on the other end of the wing. It used to stick out one side, now it sticks out the other. I'm like, they redesigned every plane on Earth. I don't think so. And then, of course, everybody knows it's called Mandela because, there's 7 renditions. On the timeline I came from, originally he was beat almost to death, prison, and then hung from the bars of the cell over. They had bars on the top of the cell too, and he was hung from them. And then, of course, people know that he later became president. And, I was at sea and I go, how could he be president? He was hung. And they made a movie of it too. So, I mean, come on, what did I not remember the movie? Is like I'm remembering a movie that didn't ever be made because he was never hung. I'm like, I'm confused. And then other people remember him coming out of prison, but being shot dead. So there's various renditions. There's many of the Mandela effect type things. For example, in Field of Dreams is build it and he will come. But it's also originally was build it and they will come. Now it's he will come, I guess, meaning his father. I don't see the point, but okay. And like Forrest Gump is life is like a box of chocolates. Now it's life was like a box of chocolates. In mirror on the wall, that's changed. How that goes. So there's been a lot of changes, and that's due to the timeline manipulations. But now as people are being changed by the way they think, they're farming the thoughts and emotions and imaginations. That also causes the timelines to jump. And then as they've quit using time travel mostly, the timelines heal themselves. So they're plastic-like, and they are like kind of like
they rejoin.
they heal, they come back together.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
It's an interesting observation that at some level our consciousness is able to transcend the glitches in timelines, because we do remember. I remember when from the Forrest Gump, every example that you mentioned, I remember those. So we have an ability to see beyond those shifts, which
Yeah,
is
and then
really
there's
quite
also even,
powerful.
yeah, there are also even timelines that are vastly far away that have some people and even some buildings have come from it. So people are talking about Tartaria and a mud flood that happened in the 1800s, that the 1800s was 2 centuries long or something. And I'm like, no, not for me, because I'm the last male in my family and I have my history of my family back to the year 637. And I have written letters between husband and wife through wars all the way back to the Revolutionary War. If there was a flood of mud that wiped out most of the world, I think I would have somebody writing about that in the letters between husband and wife, or, it would be in the memory of people, because massive world catastrophes stay in the memory of everybody on Earth. If you had something that was worldwide cataclysmic, it would be in the memory of everybody. Because 1800s is only, a few generations. It's not long enough to not be told to parents, to the grandparents, the great grandparents, etc. It would have been
Right.
still in the record of what's been told about. I remember, oh, you think the Revolutionary War, or you think the Civil War, or you think that the Depression was bad. I lived through the mud flood. We don't have that, but yet you have buildings that actually show that that have moved from that timeline to this, that show their layers of building below the ground, that were, floors of buildings built below the ground that were from the mud flood from Tartaria, which didn't exist on the majority of the timelines coming from this one. There's a few that it did. So there's been a massive juggling of the timelines, and that's amazing to actually get to see one.
Well, I want to hit on something that was a really popular topic out in the chat when I brought it up, and it's back on people. We were talking about Joe Biden a little bit, and that he is I guess at the very least, I'd say a now modified individual, if not just the effigy of the original individual. Like to talk about Bill Gates a little bit. He is making himself quite influential, and I remember Bill Gates as the younger Bill Gates, and he seems to have changed quite a bit. And uh, if that spawns any thoughts in your mind, comments about him, his direction, is he the same person that he was some 20 and 30 years ago? Seems to be that the young computer guy that was just looking to exploit Steve Jobs' technology and turn it into something else with IBM is now a whole different individual. What role does, in your view, what role does he play, as the guy who's talking about vaccinating an entire population? We're talking about him being connected to people who are well set to integrate nanotechnology into vaccines, him being a big proponent of vaccination, and then put that together with him, for some odd reason, just buying up tons of farmland in the United States. What do you have any reading on Bill Gates? Because I think he's a pretty dangerous individual to us, in my view.
From my memory, he looks completely different, because
Yes.
now the Bill Gates we have, if you know what you're looking at, that's a woman.
He does not look like the old Bill Gates. I remember 30
That
years.
actually looks like a woman.
Yep.
The head is proportionate to the shoulders in the way that a woman's head is proportionate to the shoulders. Like with Big Mike, you can tell that's actually a man, because men's the width of the head compared to the shoulders, and then where the waistline is different too. And then the proportionship on the fingers is different. The jawline is different. The structure in the jaw and the bones, the hip structure is different. And so Bill Gates now is actually, that person we're seeing is actually a woman, and the wife is actually the male. And so you've got both of them flip sex now. So they're both, transed into being the opposite. And the original wasn't. It was a man and the wife was a woman, and now it's not.
Thumper, any further?
He's taking a break.
Oh, he's not there. Yeah. Okay. Well, I've seen, and you know, it's once again, it's not my imagination. I remember what his priorities were, his direction was some 20 and 30 years ago. It seems like he's become a more big world player. He's got his fingers into everything, and the network that he's connected to is everything that spells hazard and danger for general humanity, in my opinion, in my view.
Yeah, he's being definitely played to do exactly that.
Is and bringing up Bill Gates, and because I'm here in the state of Washington, and what is your reading on Washington State, and let's just say the whole Pacific Northwest? Let's start just a little south of Portland and go north on I-5 from there. Because it has, it's my belief that the cabal is very, very active in our state. We've got over almost 17,000 registered Chinese Communist Party members in our state. You look at what was going on in Portland with Antifa and the ties that this show has talked about with human trafficking coming out of Oregon, major MK Ultra operations in Oregon as well. So what's your take on all that, Gene?
Yeah, pretty much the majority of underground under you is a massive maglev dome. Most of it's cleaned up now, but you still have a lot of stuff from the gold mining days. That's still lots of old mines and tunnels that they still use. So it's a pretty messed up place. It's I like Southern California as far as the climate, and I've been stationed there a few times, but now that I know what I know, I wouldn't live there.
Well, we watched here in this state, in all last summer. I was asked by the Culp for Governor campaign to head up Lauren Culp's run for governor here in Eastern Washington, and I took him up on that because I really felt that he had the right idea for Washington State. And I interviewed him on my shows, mainly the Straight Shooting Show, because of his stance on the gun rights here in Washington State, which they've been just decimating as best they can. And he was one of the very first police officers, he was the police chief up in Republic, Washington, which is a tiny little community up in just slightly east of central Washington, not far from the Canadian border. Cute little town. But he was the police chief there, and he basically told him when we supposedly passed 1639, which was this major gun grab, that he was not going to enforce it, which forced many, many sheriffs and other police chiefs around the state to go, oh crap, because they're going to get asked if they're going to enforce it as well. But anyway, working with the campaign, I was out. I was talking to a lot of people, and we had an incredible groundswell. And then we won the primary, and then after that, I stepped aside from the campaign and let somebody else run the Eastern Washington stuff, and when we got to the general election, we saw the obvious effect of this voter intrusion by the machines and everything else. But one thing that has been going on in Washington State for almost 30 years is we've had mail-in ballots now, and It's been horribly corrupt since then. And so and I, you know, from the you know, the Q400, remember the Q400 flight?
Yep.
You know, and that was in Seattle. We had the missile that was shot out of Puget Sound.
Yep. That was that submarine that I was talking about that did that.
So it's not hard to think that you know, Washington State is a hotbed for this, and I keep wondering, you know, cleaning out this state, because you know, we have not felt any, you know, of those earthquakes, those 4.5s, you know, 3.2s, whatever. I haven't felt any of them around here, but I know that they drilled a dam underneath my feet here about 5 years ago, 5 to 6 years ago. I could feel the thing going underneath the house. And it went from north to south, and took it well, it was through wintertime, and you could sit there and you can hear it running, and you could and it started out low intensity and then got real high intensity, and then after a while it faded off into nothingness again, as if something was drilling through the ground underneath us, and then moving on north. And it definitely came from, my perception was from south to north. And the whole time it was happening, I'm going, they're drilling a dome through here, or drilling a you know, subterranean tunnel. And so I just know that Washington State has been a big part of this whole thing. And
now, Washington State is pivotal because it goes to Vancouver.
Yes, exactly.
And so they had a huge dam there that they took out late or early last year. That was the hub for bringing kids from the U.S. and into the U.S. and back and forth, especially for the Native American kids when they wanted them from Canada. They bring them down, and then that was a big, huge facility there, and they took that out, and so the tunnel line does run up underneath 5.
I'm not at all surprised, because and just the way our you know, the way the government works here, the way the things that we've seen, and that Seattle is such a hub of technology. You know, Boeing, Microsoft, United Parcel Service started in Seattle. Seattle's always been kind of the instigator. They got the Space Needle, and you know, so much of this I think was you know, if you've ever had an international exposition in your city, you've probably been in. That's when they massive construction projects for the you know, for the exposition site. You know, what a great opportunity to you know, dig in, so to speak.
Yep, that's how the cabal works. And you know, that whole system they were building, that high-speed rail, that was nothing but, you know, an undercover op to take money and then also to build underground systems.
Hey, I was gonna go ahead, Indigo. Go ahead.
Gene, you know, before we get too far along, it's an interesting idea that me and a couple of other people have had, given your background, and that you are, at the very least, a rather enlightened individual. It's fantastic talking with you. Not to put you on the spot, but if you were to, if I were to ask you if you might be able to lead the more than 1,000 of us that are participating with you right now in some sort of maybe a 15-second guided little meditation on something. And we give you a few minutes to think about how you might do that, but it might be good because you can combine the power of your thought with over 1,000 people right now, and that means something. That does something. We're talking about the reality that we live in, and timelines that are choices, and that they are plastic and fluid. it just might do something good. And not to put you on the spot, but it's just an idea that I had, and I've discussed it with a couple of other people previously who are here participating with us now.
Yeah, I'd be honored to.
That'd be awesome.
So
Anytime you can think about it for a while, I'm sure we have more that we can talk
I'm
about.
ready to roll anytime you want.
Oh, do it, man, do it.
Okay, so if everybody would close their eyes, and for those that believe in God and Christ, visualize an army of warring angels coming from heaven down and pulling up all of the children from the dumps and eradicating all of the cabal's dumps on Earth. And for those that know there's an alliance, see the military bringing those children up and removing all of the cabal. And we see these main assets that are supposedly running this country now being the Supreme Court announcing through the court cases that are currently in process that the vote was stolen, and that they're going to renounce the current fake person in there, who will be drawn up along with the people involved, and the proof has been shown through every single information, like Lynn Wood said, and also the My Pillow guy said that they have all of it. We see them showing every bit of evidence and arresting all of those people involved for treason and sedition throughout the entire world, and brought in front of tribunals for all of the votes for every country on earth for decades being taken. We see all of that happening, the cabal being cleaned up, arrest, and being sent to camps that are already provided, that the alliance has already provided for. And we see Trump being sworn into the presidency no later than in late spring. But we see the highest timeline that'll be what we're seeing prepared for on March 4th. Other timelines that those who want to participate, we see as 107 said, April 1st, or at the very latest in May. That all of this is done. Trump's back in charge. They announced that COVID has been gone for a very long time, and that this was all part of the cabal's ploy to bring down the economies. And now we see in the summer, the beginning of the disclosure of free energy devices coming out, medveds to heal people who got the vaccines, the fake vaccines for this that were damaged by it. We see free energy and anti-gravity being announced. We see the beginning of disclosure of trading with non-terrestrial groups starting, groups actually being shown. We see the media worldwide being cleaned up. And we see people, Nasara being rolled out first in the US and then country by country of all the countries that have done that throughout the entire world, that they get on a real gold, platinum, and silver backed money standard throughout the entire earth. Then we see China. Now, by late this fall, at the very latest, we see massive uprisings of the people demanding a constitutional government, and the alliance removing, and the people removing the CCP and bringing them to military tribunals for crimes against humanity for all the time since they've been there, for everything they've done with the virus in Wuhan, with the Communist Party, with all the concentration camps, all the testing, all the organ harvesting, everything they've done. And then by this time next year, we see a beautiful world where the world is cleaned up. The air is cleaned up. The oceans are cleaned up. There's no more chemtrailing. We see plants becoming healthy, animals becoming healthy, use the technology to reseed the atmosphere and clean everything up, the oceans up. And there's jubilee. People are becoming kind and considerate and respectful to each other. People enjoy working and doing what they do and take pride in what they do and considerate and respectful to each other throughout the entire world, because we see that how we got here was by not doing this. And people learn to have real respect for each other, and especially for children, that children are raised as children, and true values are taught in schools, and the true history of the world is the world, real history of what really happened. All the history books and all of the math books and all of the science books are rewritten to reflect the true math, the true physics, the true history that was robbed from the earth during the burning of the lighthouse, the Library of Alexandria. And it's all brought back from the Vatican Dome and from everything else, and all of this ancient history and the true amazing history of the human race is brought forth. And we celebrate enjoying our galactic family, and we see a beautiful civilization developing throughout the earth, and peaceful, and the cabals completely removed. Those that will turn themselves in and accept God and Christ do so, and those that don't are given either license, if they give information, to remove all the assets, or taken to military tribunals and sent to God's court for judgment. So we see all of that done. We see Trump doing a complete 4-year term, in which by the end of that term, every country on earth, the people have their vote honored, and who is elected as a person that represents the people, a statesman, not a politician, a person that is there for the people, that does at the very most 8 years. There's no more career politicians allowed or career statesmen on earth. The most time a person can do is 8 years. It's changed that way in every country on earth. And we see with the free energy and the printing machines and all of this, that there's an abundance of all things on earth, so that people have all the food. Nobody starves anymore. Nobody goes hungry. Nobody hurts for a place to live. Everybody has the things they need to have a life in which they can find joy and help each other and take care of each other and take care of their families and have full lives. And we see this done for those that know there's one true God, the God of all creation, and he had a son, Jesus Christ, in the power of that God, that this is why this happens. And through the acceptance of Christ, that all can be saved, and those that will in the cabal are, and those that are not be sent to God's judgment. And for those that do not know that, we pray for their understanding and rising up to see the golden proportion in all things, that all things are based on one proportion, and understand there is but one God, not gods, just one. And so all of the human race finally reaches its potential and starts to become and join its galactic brotherhood. And the earth is finally healed and made whole by the end of Trump's second term. So thank you, everybody. God bless, in the name of the one true living God of all love, light, compassion, and creation, and his son, his only begotten son, my Lord and Savior, and our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, and the Holy Spirit, that it be done on earth as it is in heaven, and sealed thus for all time. Thank you.
Thank you,
can
Gene.
close that for
Amen.
however it's appropriate to your belief structure, as long as it's not satanic.
Thank you so much for that, Gene. That was beautiful.
And thank you, Indigo, for allowing and suggesting that.
Thank you. You
Amazing.
created a vision in my mind of a beautiful world, a community of earth, and power for goodness and truth. And I always think of children, the defenseless, the injured, the sick, the ill, the old, the infirm, the veterans. I think of them all first, particularly children. And this community of earth and earth and beyond, for all we know. And thank you. That was so powerful, sir.
Absolutely. You know, and you know, while you were talking there, mentioning those things, Indigo, I thought of something else. You know, we've moved into the next day. It's Thursday now, but same day for me. But you know, we lost someone this morning, that meant a lot to me over the years.
Me too.
And I'm speaking of a great patriot and a great American who
Rush
started this great awakening. Yes, Rush Limbaugh. Truly an amazing American. And
beautiful soul.
Absolutely. I was a devout listener for 20 some odd years. And it was I said my eulogy to him this morning, and I got quite emotional about it on air because well, he and I had something in common, by the way. Did you know that? I bet you didn't.
You're very powerful patriots and wonderful men.
We both owned 1969 Pontiac Le Manses.
Oh, okay.
Actually true though. Rush, I heard Rush talking one day on his show about his 1969 Pontiac Le Mans, and I went, holy crap. And I looked over at the wall and there's the picture of mine. I went, no wonder I like this guy so much.
I have some pictures to share with you on dumps if you'd like.
Yeah, please go ahead.
So I have there's a team now of people all over the world, because the Gmail I have gets about between my Gmail, and then there are continental coordinators now too that handle the Gmail coming in. It's over 2,000 a day. So in Africa and Europe, and then there's coordinator for Canada, and then the whole world has got one person that sends to the different countries and the continents and throughout all the US and everything. And so one of the Canadian coordinators sent me this compilation from Facebook. So it's pretty interesting. It pretty much speaks for itself.
Wow.
For those that don't believe there's anything down there.
Wow. Look at that.
Some of these I know where there are. I think
these are huge.
These ones I think are in Netherlands and Norway. I think that's actually Cheyenne Mountain. That's a boring machine, obviously.
There's a machine,
digging a maglev tunnel.
Yep.
That's one of the old types. This is a rendition of how maglevs look. It's a mock-up kind of, just a drawing.
Mm-hmm.
That's Cheyenne Mountain, of course. There's a small machine.
Look at the size of that.
That's a lot of trucks.
The headroom in these caverns is huge. These are big.
Yeah. This one I think is in China. I think this is in Cheyenne.
That's Cheyenne Mountain there, yeah.
Yeah. I think this one is Norway.
Yeah.
Boy, for any skeptics, you can't deny these. Look at this. It's right there, picture after picture.
This is actually a missile silo. I'm pretty sure.
Mm-hmm.
This is a resort that a guy's building, actually, for people with money.
Were you here when Dead Cat and I did our DUMS show, our deep underground base show? Well, we did one, but it was we went on the realtor sites, and we were looking for bunker type homes, and some of these silos that are for sale that people are converting over into doomsday bunkers and stuff like that. We had a lot of fun with it. It was a crazy show.
kind of a drawing of what it looks like there.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you know, some of these.
This one's DIA. I know this is going under the Frontier Airport, the Frontier runways in DIA.
Mm-hmm. And some of these, like that one with the ship, some of those were actually built by the Germans during World War II, right?
Yep. And the Norwegians and the Hungarians. And I mean, everybody was building underground stuff then.
Mm-hmm. Now, do you have any updates on, because, you know, you're in Colorado. Any updates on anything happening out at DIA?
DIA's been clean and under lockdown, tied to Cheyenne Mountain since March of last year. There have been doors closed since March of last year, pretty much. Because of the COVID, they have to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been completely locked up, and DIA's been clean for 2 years. These maps, I actually found that these maps came from a declassified MJ-12 document that was given to Eisenhower. That's how old these domes are that you're seeing.
Wow.
And if you notice, this is the constellation Orion,
and
this is the constellation Gemini. They love their symbols. Symbols will be their downfall. Yeah.
Well, I found it interesting because we found a document here not too long ago where they are. There's a
that one's obviously China there.
Yeah. But there's a patent that was just recently made available to us where they are releasing information about cold fusion as a very compact. Basically, the design that they show in a patent will fit in the nose cone of an F-15.
Nice. Yeah, they released the TR-3B's free energy device. It's under Salvatore Pais.
Yes.
And that fits in a shoebox.
Mm-hmm.
And it develops 1 trillion watts of power constantly.
Wow.
Yeah. You would power the eastern seaboard or the western seaboard with 1 shoebox of something. This is a big facility. This is an SSBN. See the deck?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I do.
These are big submarines. You got 3 of them side by side in here.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That is a big place.
Point Loma? No.
Yeah, could be. Point Magoo. Speaking of World War II submarine facilities built by the Germans.
Mm-hmm.
These are some of the boring devices that I was talking about.
Mm-hmm. Now, the one of the first photos you showed there, it looked like they were, very nice, smooth floor and like salt pillars carved out, and you had the all the semi trucks there.
There's one like that under Kansas City, Kansas, another under Kansas City, Missouri, and another one under Detroit that are all like that.
And they're open to the public.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, lover.
This is Cheyenne Mountain, I'm pretty sure.
Hey, we have Ollie showing up on scene here. Ollie is not too far from where you're at there, Gene. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Hey, Ollie, what's up?
Okay, I woke up and there's Gene. You got Gene on there. I got a quick question. Gene, I'm all down in Fort Collins.
Oh, yeah, you're just a bit north of me.
Where are you at?
South of you, about an hour and a half drive.
Okay. Hey, what do we have to do to get rid of Polis?
What do you have to do to do what?
Get rid of Polis.
Oh, POTUS?
Polis.
I'm not.
The governor.
Say again?
The governor.
Oh. Yeah, Hickenlooper?
No, it's Polis now.
Oh, Polis. Yeah, same thing. Just run by Hickenlooper. They didn't change anything. It's just he just moved up in rank and somebody took his spot.
Yeah.
It's still the mafia, still the cabal. He'll be arrested. It won't be long. They're working their way down from the top down. This is all Cheyenne Mountain, of course. 20-ton blast doors.
Well, you've amassed quite the collection here, Gene.
There's the boring machine. Is that a newer boring machine or an older one?
That's an older one.
That's
These
an
are
older
all
one
old
too.
things, yeah.
Yep.
The new stuff used particle beams.
And they're massive.
Yeah.
So the rate of boring, the state of the art rate of boring, like feet per minute or feet per hour. What is the
miles per
capacity?
hour?
Miles per hour?
Yeah.
Oh my
Nobody,
God.
I've said it once before and people thought I was crazy.
Whoa.
How I said miles per day and they said that's impossible. You can't be in triple digits. You're out of your mind.
Wow. Yeah, that is super dialed in technology there.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Well, now, granted, they can do so much underground, out of view. It's
This
very
is
limited.
actually Greenbrier. That's for the Congress. You can get tours of that one.
But
this is Granite Mountain.
Do we still? Is there still a massive threat of a solar event? Because another thing that Corey Good and David Wilcock and all those guys are talking about, is this flash solar event type of thing.
Yep.
What's your take on that?
2031.
Interesting.
On the current timeline, 2031.
Yeah, I was going to say that we could jump timelines and it might change because that's a little ways off. But yeah, that's what your reading is.
It's been sitting there for about 8 years. Hasn't moved. Well, it moved like 6 years ago. I'm sorry. It moved 2 years further out 6 years ago.
Solar event, that literally sterilizes one side of the earth, everything that it's shining on when it happens.
No. What actually happens, this is another part of the cabal's lies, how suns in the sky work, the stars. They're not nuclear furnaces. Their energy is coming from space. It's coming down ley lines like wires in space. And as they get a confluence of wiring, you get mass. It could be a planet. If you get enough, could be a star. So the energy, for example, the surface of our G-type star here in Sol, at the surface is about 1 million degrees Kelvin.
Yep.
If you go 100 million miles away from the surface of the sun, it's 8 million degrees Kelvin. How can it be hotter farther out?
Gee, you're right.
Yep.
That's the opposite of, if it was a nuclear furnace, it would be the opposite. So what you're saying is that it's a nexus, it's a focal point of converging energy at a point.
Right. So what it does is it gets closer and closer, it gets denser and denser. And when it gets dense enough, it ignites. And just like a lantern, the mantle is glowing, but the fuel is coming down a pipe, in this case, many pipes of ley lines of space. And then as you go down, if you look down in a sunspot, they've looked over 100 miles down into a sunspot. It actually gets close to room temperature. It's ridiculous. So, what they're telling us about suns. And so the way a sun works is it's inside is a planet just like ours, which again, people, they've lied about how planets are. So you got to understand planets next. So the next thing is like, why is Pluto no longer a planet? It's a planetoid. Because they don't tell you what makes a planet or a planetoid. And so planets are, the way they form is that when their first 92 essentially homogeneous elements. It's picking up torque and spin, masses coming together, materials coming together. It starts picking up spin. That's a centrifuge. So the heavy material goes to the core. And so if you have enough of that heavy material on the atomic element chart, that's thorium, uranium, plutonium, that's all nuclear material.
Right.
So it starts fissioning if you get enough mass. And then you do create the kind of star that they say ours are, which is a fissioning fusion kind of star.
That's what they say.
Then you have that, again, they lie to you about gravity. Gravity is a push. It's a particle wave. Waves push, they don't pull. You're on the surface of a planet because more push from above than below, because the planet below you attenuates the push. So you have more push from the stars that are, what creates a gravity wave is breaking the binding force of, again, they lie and say it's the strong nuclear force. That's just gravity near the event horizon of the singularity that's at the center of every nucleus of every atom that binds it. So that gravity wave is pushing those materials together. So when you blow the nucleus apart, it either is through fission, fusion, matter-antimatter reaction, or high energy plasma. When you do that, you release that push and it inverts and goes outwards. So as you do that, then you have, from that sun in the center of the earth, it pushes the liquid material out, which is currently still liquid. Now you have a sphere of material around a small fissioning star, and that star's picking up speed. So it turns into essentially an electric dynamo, and it has poles. North and south pole, which electromagnets is 10 to the 95th power stronger than gravity. That's why a little magnet can, get over the gravity well of Earth and pick a paper clip off of, a few inches up or even a foot up, depending on.
Right, that force is so much stronger.
Yeah, so then it opens up the liquid material at the poles, and you have vast holes at the poles. And that's why there's a no-fly zone over the Arctic. You never have a flight going right over the Arctic. The pole on the Arctic, which is actually, again, the idea is actually the South Pole, because if you have the positive pole of a magnet pointing to the Arctic, opposites attract. That's the South Pole.
Exactly.
Yep. So now you have a ball of liquid, a torus of liquid material around a fissioning star on the inside. Now, as volcanism happens over time, it creates water. And it rains down. You have mountain ranges, and it cools the crust all the way around, inside and out, one solid piece. And so as that forms, you get mountain ranges, and those rain come down, erodes that, and you get, if you spin a ball and you drop water, you get an S shape. It goes one arc towards the equator and inverts itself as it goes towards the other equator due to the Coriolis effect. So you have these long S-shaped seas with erosion of material going in the bottom. So that's putting pressure on the volcanic and now igneous rock and creating sedimentary rock plus water. So it's the magma in the mantle, not in the core, in the mantle between the outer and the inner surfaces, is eroding that rock that's being pushed down by the sea
from
zones.
Underneath. It's eroding it from the bottom surface.
So eventually it gets thin enough that it cracks, and that crack went around the world, so that literally in minutes, it separated and broke apart. And then because of the spin, the centrifugal force and the torque caused by the spin, the continents moved outwards and came to sit where they are today within 40 feet. They've only moved 40 feet since that first happened. And so when that first happened, then at that time, because the earth was hotter, it was raining and all this stuff, you have, as it cools, what happens is the air is a supersaturated solution. Like if you take water and you keep putting salt in it, eventually you can't put any more. It's saturated. If you raise it 10 degrees, you can put a little more in. If you let it cool down slowly, it will stay more in solution than you could have at that temperature. It's called supersaturation. So the Earth's atmosphere was supersaturated. So you didn't have rain in the normal sense like we have so much. It was more condensation for a while, and then that would condensate on, and it wasn't really raining, it was condensating, and still rivers and eroding and all that. But then you had this event where you had a massive catastrophe that cracked the plate on the inside and the outside. So there was a water level of water underneath the aquifers already there. So that goes spraying up into the atmosphere, causes a cascade event where the supersaturated, so those cascades, and it rains solid for 40 days while everything spins apart and comes to rest where it is. That's why if you get core samples of the ocean floors, all of them, there's nothing over 140 million years old anywhere. The oldest place is off the coast of near
in the
Guam,
Pacific
between
somewhere.
Guam and that part of Asia.
Mhm.
And so then now, so you've got this, that's what the planets are. And so all of that energy is connecting from the core of the central suns of all the planets to the core of the sun, giving it energy. They're sharing energy back and forth, plus the entire Milky Way spinning around it was originally, before it became a falling galaxy, spinning counterclockwise, tilted at 55 degrees. If you look at Andromeda, it's spinning the other way. All the other galaxies are planar to each other. The falling galaxies are spinning counterclockwise and tilted 55 degrees. It's called the Iometron technology when they hijack the Milky Way. But so anyway, so the energy from the central sun, which in the case of falling galaxies is in a black hole, is still radiating out through its poles. That's why you see out of black holes these huge jets of energy going hundreds of thousands of light years.
Yes, they're ejected at the poles.
You're right. And so that energy in the case of, if you have a black hole, is ejecting outwards, and it cuts across the entire Milky Way, because you have Andromeda on one side and you have Sagittarius in the globular cluster. So gravity being a push, it doesn't go out 360, it goes out and it's only 3 days wide. So it cuts across the entire Milky Way. So every half spin through the Milky Way that a galaxy does, it passes through that field. But because on each side of that field, it's 180 degrees out of phase, that means the planets and the stars actually have to flip their poles every time you go through. Plus that the central sun of the Milky Way is not a red giant, it's an infrared giant, which means the primary energy is in the infrared spectrum. So this ring that's coming out from the central sun, what they call Alcyon, or the central sun of the Milky Way, is 3 days thick. But it's not a hard line, like it's just, here's a card, it's the end of, here's the, no, it diffuses outward. So as a solar system gets into that, it starts to get more and more infrared feeding into its sun.
Mm-hmm.
And so the sun starts getting more energy, and it goes up and up and up and up. And so you get all the planets getting that energy and giving it back and forth. So they start to have global climate change. It's not just Earth. You look at Mars.
Oh yeah, all the other planets. That's right.
Yeah, Mars doesn't have ice caps anymore. It's had a hurricane that's the size of Texas for a decade now.
Yep.
The red spots gotten bigger, the blue spots on Neptune has got bigger. All of the planets are getting more unstable. So what happens when you finally enter the hard part of that 3-day thickness is that first the planet's atmosphere ionizes. Each planet's atmosphere ionizes. So if you look at that globally, that means like St. Elmo's fire, ball lightning at the equator, where you have two magnetic fields coming out of the equator, which they don't show you. There's two magnetic fields. There's one from north to south, but there's also one that is a moving magnetic field, like a figure eight. It comes out of the equator and it rolls up and down. So you have the energy moving up and down. That's why you can't have a nuclear blast anywhere you want, anytime you want. You have to have it on a ley line. That's why they build reactors where they do, where they're not on ley lines. So if they go supercritical like Chernobyl, they don't blow up. And so then that's what happens to planets. Its atmosphere ionizes. You have ball lightning and a lot of surface burned up, like they did 165 million years ago on Earth, that caused an extinction event. And then the sun, of course, its energy is being massively up. So what it does, the sun is acting like a relaxation oscillator in this point, where the inner core of the sun in the planet in the core is actually like a little electric dynamo. And so it collapses the field of the sun to the core, which means the entire corona of the sun goes to its core. Now it's literally like a relaxation oscillator in a suppression field, where it starts to vibrate higher and higher till it starts jumping octaves. In this case, it's going to jump 2 octaves. It's already started upwards. It's already moving through fourth. It'll go from third density to fifth density. When then by that time you're outside the field. So now that corona now at fifth density bursts off the sun. The sunlight suddenly, light explodes and it bursts off the sun, and when it hits a planet, it wraps around the planet and goes into the poles of the planet, causing its central sun to go up 2 densities. And then that wave goes same way out through the planet, and everything either is vaporized, or if it can't go to fifth density, fourth or fifth density, or it goes to fourth or fifth density. Now you have to understand that electromagnetically speaking, there's 2 poles to do that. In other words, ascension to fourth and fifth density can either be done positively or negatively. So in the case of the Earth, and they don't show you this, but ISIS has already taken pictures. I might be able to actually find one of those pictures. But there's a picture of a new Earth that's formed in orbit behind this one. It's fourth, fifth density positive Earth. It's already formed. So when this event happens, what's going to happen is everything that can go to fourth and fifth density positive goes to that Earth, because you go where you resonate. The negative pole will be this Earth. So negative ascension and the Cabal and the New World Order, they get their timeline for a period of time. So if you remember the movie Intergalactic, they started having blights and everything, and they had to leave because finally nothing could grow. So currently, from my information, that's on the timeline is 2045. And if you look at the Montauk program, every time they tried to send people forward, and the same reason they quit using the looking glass, every time they look forward, all they see is they wind up, if they send people, and all they see when they look, the furthest they can look forward is 2045. And they wind up in front of Lucifer at DIA, and the whole world is lifeless, inside, outside, dumbs everything. There's no life left on this. This becomes a moon for the new Earth. And because that's the end of their time, you can't remote view or travel forward in time to a time which there is no energy structure of your progeny or anything of you that exists past a certain time. You can't go past that time. So they're locked into 2045 because of negative ascension. They're negative beings in service to negative stuff. And so that's the end for them on Earth. They stay on this Earth, and the people, it's essentially, pretty biblical. 3 days when the sun ionizes like that, it's now acting, the atmosphere during that 3 days when the sun goes dark, it's acting like a lens. So it is in the infrared, ionizing the infrared spectrum, which means light that's coming from infrared, which is that, the sun's dark, but you have this infrared energy coming from the central sun that's bouncing off the sun and bouncing off our moon. But you can't see the regular stars because they're not giving you infrared over the long distances of space much that the human eye can witness.
Yeah, the eye can't see that infrared.
Exactly. So what you're going to see is the sky pitch black everywhere on Earth, but the moon and the sun will look blood red because it'll take the infrared and shift it, because of the atmosphere of the Earth being in the infrared spectrum will shift it down to the red spectrum. So the moon and the sun will turn blood red.
Interesting. Well, I'll tell you what there, Gene, you agreed to come on for about an hour tonight.
It's great.
I did 3, didn't I? Oh, well.
This is.
I only have to get up at noon, so I'm okay. I got another show at noon.
That is fantastic, though. Gene, you put a whole different perspective on the idea of ascension. Okay, that those who do not move in that positive direction basically are stuck here when the new Earth comes along.
Yeah.
They just won't be able to go there.
If you're in service to self and service into some fake God,
you're locked.
You're locked in. You can only get there one way. And I've gone through that quite a few times. I'm blessed to teach. People know what I'm talking about. Backstage, I'm blessed to teach. There's like, you got one tunnel to go over there. That's it.
Yep. Well, thank you so much. Wow.
Fascinating 3 hours. Thank you so much, Gene.
So, there's the Hollow Earth is something, if you look at the work the works of, hold on just a sec, I'll pull that up. I can pull it up in about 15.
Well, Gene, we're running out of time here. We're
okay. Well, I can get it for you real quick. I've almost
okay.
got it.
All right.
So on continental drift and really how it does work, if you look up the works, it was his master's thesis that he did, and it was done by a man by the name of Professor now he's got a doctoral, Dr. James Maxwell, and he studied under Professor Sam Warren Carey. And so if you look up those two individuals, you can see all that. And they have maps showing taking the Earth back to where it was 48% of its current size back 170 million years ago.
What was the second name? I got Dr. James Maxwell. I'm doing a search on it so I can put it out in the chat.
Professor Warren Carey.
Carrey.
Carrey.
Got it.
So push for time. I think I got those right.
Did you find what you were looking for there, Gene?
Yeah, that's what I had.
Oh, okay.
I know we need to get hyperdrive on, so we all got to get our seatbelts on.
Yeah, we're going to have to get our seatbelts on. We have an 18-wheeler bearing down on us here, and I think he's looking for a spot in the fuel aisle. So we're going to have to bail on out of here. But thank you so much, and I really want to say thank you, and it's been a pleasure catching up with you. And
you too.
Great to meet you too. Thanks for all your insights.
Thank you. God bless both of you. It's been an honor to be on your platform again.
Well, we'll have to have you back sooner. We'll have to have you back sooner.
Don't want to wait another whole year.
Yeah, no. We I have a feeling things are going to be heating up here pretty soon. So
yeah, me too.
And there may not be so much decoding going on as it is going, what the hell?
What the heck is going on?
Really,
all the people are becoming to us conspiracy theorists. You mean it wasn't a theory, it was a fact.
Yeah.
Tell me what you were saying. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I didn't listen.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, we'll it all remains to be seen. Have patience, have hope, and if you got some things to work on, better get to work. So we'll wish everybody a pleasant rest of your evening, morning, daytime, whatever the case may be. Adjust for your time zone, please. And
what I always say is good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, depending on your dimension, density, level, and location, and God bless.
Can you write that down for me, please?
God bless you, Gene.
All
be
right.
well, sir. Be well.
Thank you. You too, Indigo, Thumper, both.
Ladies and gentlemen, please find your seats and make sure your seat backs and your tray tables are in their upright position. If you have anything that's out and not stored correctly, please get it into the overhead bins or store it underneath your seat. And take your seats, buckle up, buttercups, because we're headed back to our point of origin. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, we're coming up to the terminal. Once we have come to a full stop, you may unseat yourselves and grab your gear. Take it with you because, frankly, we have more than enough for next week's yard sale. So thank you very much for joining us tonight for another 40,000 mile trip, 40,000 light years.